There's no time.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey, what's going on, you guys? It's Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Tom's head is shining.
Is it shining?
In the evening? No, I'm just kidding.
I
I just thought I'd say.
shine no matter
I
what.
just say that because I was looking at your head at the time, like when I came on. So I'm like looking at your little head reflection.
Let me get the damn command module set up here. Okay.
Yeah, he's gonna get.
I had to run in here. Man, I feel like I'm leaving the fucking screen and going
Where
into
you
the
go?
other
You
video.
go
I don't know where
to
I'm
the
going.
next video.
Going into the other video.
You got plenty of room. What are you talking about?
I don't know. Just I look.
You got all kind of room over there.
Look over there and see my shoulder leaving with Spock. Oh, it's this way. Okay. Yeah, it's this way. All right.
Okay. Ah.
So this is gonna be a good show tonight.
We hadn't done a UFO show in a while.
Yeah.
Like, and usually like doing those.
Yeah.
And this is one that you kind of have a little bit of a personal connection
I have
with.
a connection to this kid.
And so we had been wanting to do this one for a while, so it finally won in the poll.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we finally got around to doing it.
The Lonnie Zamora case.
Yeah.
And Lonnie Zamora, I think is Lonnie Zamora Jr. I think is what his name is, or isn't that what his name is? Lonnie Zamora Jr.
I don't know.
I think I think it might be. His son was my squad leader in Korea in the 1st and the 506, and I remember I was down at Collier, guard post Collier, right up on the DMZ. And I was down in a little NCO bunker that they had down there near where they stored all the damn explosives and the rockets and everything were down in there, and that's where the NCOs slept. And he had me doing some kind of duty down there. I forgot what it was, but I was sleeping on the floor in there, and I could overhear him talking to the guy next to him. It was another NCO about this case. He goes, "Your dad," he goes, "I heard your dad was the one that saw that UFO." He goes, "Yeah." And I sat there for probably about 2 or 3 hours and heard him talk about this and answer a bunch of questions. I remembered a lot of it. I remembered a lot of details. And I at the time I vaguely knew the case when he said it looked like an egg and stuff.
Yeah.
And that it was a cop down I think in New Mexico. I think.
Yeah, it's New Mexico.
New Mexico, yeah. And I'd seen a documentary on it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Zamora, same guy." Now, he kind of looked like his dad in a way, but his dad looked kind of short and stocky. Sergeant Zamora was pretty big. Well, everybody's big from my point of view, but he's probably about 5'9", 5'10". Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Probably about 5'9".
Everybody's big to me because I'm a small person.
Yeah, 5'10". And he was just kind of a New Mexican Indian kind of guy. He had an Indian kind of hey, yeah, Ross, what are you doing? You're fucked up. Go ahead, give me some push-ups. Yeah, he talked like that, you know. And I said something to him one time, and his team leader says, "Don't you dare talk to him. You want to talk to him, you got to go through me. If you going to talk to him, you need to use fucking smoke signals." I'll never fucking remember that shit because everybody started falling out and busting up. Like, talking to him, if you want to talk to him, you got to use smoke signals. That's what he fucking said. His team leader was, who's like the guy right underneath him. His team leader was like from fucking Tennessee or something, you know. Fucking it was two opposites. A little bitty white dude, fucking like a fucking bulldog, and this big chilled out fucking Indian guy. He was like kind of like Chief from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Yeah, but I heard him tell this story, and yeah, it was a pretty good story. I could add to it because I've never heard any of what he said in any of the documentaries.
Yeah, I've got like I found like a really good breakdown of the case, and it had like some quotes from there, and I was watching like a couple documentaries about it that had like some recordings of his original interviews in there. So yeah, so we'll get into it. And like I said, if I say something, because like I said, you might be more familiar with the case than me, so if I say something that you don't that doesn't line up, then let me know.
The story's gone through so many hands. You know what I mean? Stuff has been added to it, and a lot of stuff got left out. but we'll talk about it more towards the end. It'll make more sense, I think, if I talk about it towards the end. Some of the stuff that was left out. I remember Sergeant Zamora, and I don't remember what. We weren't on a first name basis with Sergeant Zamora. You know, I was pretty new when I was in his squad, and he ended up leaving about when I was probably about 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months into my tour on Korea. I might have only been about 4 months, but when you're young and you're in that 4 months seems like a lifetime. And he left, and I think his first name was also Lonnie. I think.
I mean, that would make sense.
I think his name was also
now, Lonnie
Lonnie.
Zamora, the guy that saw the UFO,
Yeah.
he died in 2009, I think. So
Lonnie
he
Zamora
passed away a while back. Yeah.
So his dad was still alive up until 2009?
Yeah.
Okay.
He died in 2009.
All right.
But yeah, I first became aware of this case. It's weird because I guess this is kind of like a big case in UFO circles, but you don't hear about it as much as you hear about like some of the other ones, like the black triangles and Roswell and all that kind of shit. But I don't know. Like I first heard of this case, I think it was on Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah.
I saw it on Unsolved Mysteries. And then after that, like, I kind of forgot about it. But the more I looked into it, I was like, yeah, there is kind of, like, a lot of stuff about this. Because it is seen, I guess, in UFO circles, it's kind of considered, like, one of the more credible ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, this happened.
Yeah, he saw something.
Yeah.
It's just,
There's a lot of physical evidence.
The question is, like, what was it?
Right.
Like, it's not necessarily means that it was extraterrestrial.
Right.
But
And
he
I
did see something.
And I got a little bit of inside from his son of what Officer Zamora thought it was. There was intelligence agents there during his interrogation and also during his press release, which we'll probably get into that. I don't know if he was FBI or CIA or something. It's been a long time since I'd heard it, but he wasn't alone doing this, and he had, at the time that he started to do press releases, he had a handler with him.
Yeah.
And that handler kind of controlled what he was saying.
And a couple times he said that outright, because I
Yeah.
heard like a snippet of an interview with him where he basically said, "Oh, well, they told me I'm not supposed to talk about that."
Yeah, I have a little bit of information about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good because, like I
Right.
said, I don't have a huge amount, but they did
Yeah.
tell him like not to say certain
Yeah,
things.
Sergeant Zamora said some stuff about it. Because, you see, back in those days, there was no internet. So you could say something to people around you, and it would never really go public. But he told me some stuff, what his dad said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Spock Holodoc says, "Love these episodes, guys. Thank you. Oh, also, I've always loved y'all's setup. The place looks legendary."
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
This actually looks cooler over there. She's got some really expensive dark red curtains. Look like something out of damn Dracula's castle. Real expensive.
Yeah,
and then Satan's mirror right there.
This is my office.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I got like a candelabra and
Yeah.
everything.
We ought to make a video, do a tour in here, and show them what it looks like in here.
Yeah, because that's actually a good idea.
Yeah,
Maybe I
do a
can
whole
do it
video.
like, maybe I could put it on Patreon, or I could put it on the
drop it in the
regular
stream.
site, or just
Yeah.
drop it in here, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's like so much stuff. Like you can see a lot of the stuff, and like when people send us gifts and things like that, we try to, like my Tom Savini picture and all my cool Mexican skulls and all that kind of
It's
stuff.
like a museum in here.
It is, but it's like, and Dennis back there,
Yeah.
BTK that Sophie sent us.
Yeah.
But yes.
Bats and gargoyles and Egyptian stuff and computers and books and Day of the Dead stuff from Mexico and a couch over there with the black couch and
that Pookie's torn
Yeah,
up.
she's torn
She
up.
actually hasn't torn up the couch. She's
Just,
torn up the ottoman.
the ottoman, yeah.
Though. For some reason, she never tears the couch up. She just likes to jump on the ottoman or like get on the
Yeah.
side of the ottoman and tear. She's torn all the stuffing out, and it was new. Like I bought it new like last year, and she's already like torn it all up. Oh well, what are you gonna do? She's a kitty. Kitty's gonna kitty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we should probably do that so you can see some of the stuff like more close up, even though it's kind of it's not a mess in here. It's just there's a lot of stuff, and it's just like crammed into all the little kind of corners and everything. But yeah, so I guess everybody seems excited about doing the UFO show.
Yeah.
Like I said, we don't do them that often. I can't remember the last time we did a UFO show.
Yeah, I like UFO stuff.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I know you do. Well, yeah.
And hey, it turns out recently they're saying that, the military and the government, the intelligence agencies have been taking this seriously for a long time, that it's a real phenomenon. Now, was this extraterrestrial? We're going to get into it.
Yeah, I'm not really sure where I stand on this one. I mean, to me, I kind of feel like I don't know.
Let's get into it. I know where I stand on it.
You do?
Yep.
I'm ambivalent. I'm
Okay.
not really sure. I'm not really sure. But yeah, so interestingly, this happened in New Mexico, and I kind of feel like Roswell, New Mexico, is the one that gets all the fucking publicity and has a whole. I mean, the whole town of Roswell is like Alien Central, right? Like it's now it's tourist trap and everything like that. But the thing about it, well, that happened before this. That happened in 1947. But the whole Roswell case didn't really get any cultural traction until probably like the 1970s, right? I kind of feel like it didn't really get really well known until then.
Yeah.
But this case here also happened in New Mexico. It was actually in Socorro, New Mexico. And this happened in 1964. So after Roswell, but before Roswell became like Roswell,
Yeah, 5
like
years
super
before
famous.
I was born, so it's not as far back as I thought it was. So
Yeah,
he
1964.
so he'd still be alive, his dad. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
his dad just died in 2009.
Pretty
Well,
recently.
that was like 11 years ago, but still.
Yeah, and I always think of his son as being much older than me. Looking back on it, he's probably 3 years older than me.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? They're 4 maybe. So no, maybe 5. But yeah, probably about 5 years.
Well, I don't know.
But that seems like somebody who's way older than you when you're
Yeah.
20. 20 years old, 21.
Zach says, did you hear they identified the boy in the box with the DNA genealogy today? Holy shit. No, I didn't.
What boy in the box?
Actually, it's an unsolved murder case, like a really famous unsolved murder case. Actually, matter of fact, I think that I did a post on my crime and memorial site about it, so now I'm going to have to go in there and update it if they've done that. But yeah, I didn't hear that today. I was like doing other stuff and didn't like read any
Think
of
of
the
all
news.
those killers out there shaking in their boots.
I know, they're like,
their
oh
shit
no.
could be uncovered at any time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's
Yeah.
like they're solving. It's
Yeah.
crazy, like, because now every time, like, if I post something on my site, like from my book, I always have to check and make sure. And some of them actually have been solved, like in the couple of years since I wrote the book. You know what I mean?
It's
Including
funny.
Boy in the Box, but that's like an older case though.
All those bodies, dudes like Bundy just left out in the woods, never found ever.
Yeah.
And what was funny is that I ended up reading or hearing later on that the ones that were least likely to be found, ones that were just left on the surface out in a wooded area. You know what I mean? If you buried it, they'd find it.
Yeah.
But if you just left it out, they didn't find them. The animals got them,
Yeah.
scattered it.
Just fucked up, but that's what happens.
Yeah.
Animals don't know any better.
No, I know, with
They're
the
just like,
food,
hey,
man.
food.
Yeah.
You're just food for somebody.
Yeah, you're just another animal.
Yeah. But yeah, so this case happened in April of 1964. So it's about 5:45 on April 24th. So you got a police officer, Sergeant Lonnie Zamora. Now he's in the middle of like a high-speed chase. He's chasing a speeder, essentially. Kind of going down this highway that goes through Socorro, New Mexico. Now, while he's chasing the car, like kind of off to the side or like a kind of a far distance in front of him, he said that he heard a roar and then saw like a flame in the sky that he said was about a mile away, approximately. Now, he said it was so unusual that he actually, kind of left off the car chase that he was doing and wanted to go check it out because it's like it could be, a plane crash, it could be a car crash, it could be an explosion. Like he thought maybe it was an explosion at first as well, because there were some storage shacks of dynamite out there that might have blown up. So he's like, well, I better go check this out. No, so he did like radio in and say, I saw something weird, like an explosion or something. So I'm going to go like check it out. So he did see, like, after this initial weird flame that he saw in the sky, he saw what he called a quote unquote bluish orange flame. And it was kind of like descending like toward the ground. And he also said that it looked funnel-like. That's what he said the shape was.
Of the flame?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, because he was kind of like driving at the time, like driving over to where it was, and was trying to like look at the thing that was sort of landing or whatever at the same time, like while he was trying to drive, so he couldn't get that good a look at it. But he said that as he was driving toward whatever this thing was, he realized that the sound that he had heard was still audible. He said it didn't sound like an explosion, like a blasting kind of noise. He said it sounded like a roar. That's what it sounded like, a continuous sound like that. Now, he said he heard this noise for a few more seconds, and then, like, it went, like, from a high-pitched roar to a low-pitched roar. Now, so the object, like, keeps going lower, you know, and Lonnie Zamora is kind of coming up a hill, like, and his car was kind of having a hard time, you know, getting up the hill or whatever. And then by the time he got kind of the top of the hill, like, the guy he was chasing, like, you know, got away. He was probably like, woo, you know, like, it was his lucky day. He could just keep speeding or whatever. And at this point, the noise had stopped. So Lonnie keeps going. And then he said that he saw, like, something shining on the side of the road, like a shiny object around 200 yards ahead of him. Now, at first, he thought... his initial thought was that it was an overturned car, like, because he didn't, you know, it was still like at some distance away. And he said that he could see what he thought was two people standing next to the thing, like they were examining the vehicle, almost like I said, it had been overturned or somebody had been in an accident and they were like checking it out. Now, he said that one of the people seemed to notice that he was coming and kind of like looked toward him. He said both of the people had like white coveralls on. He said he didn't notice anything unusual about them other than their size. He said that they looked like large kids or small adults. So, you know, he said like they looked like humans, but they were just like smaller than normal. That's about the only thing that he noticed that was weird about them. Like short guys, two short guys in white coveralls. Now, as he starts to get closer, he starts to realize that what he at first thought was an overturned car is not an overturned car. He said it looked like an O shape or an egg shape, and that he said it looked like it was made of aluminum, and that it was like kind of like an off-white or whitish kind of color. He also said that he saw some kind of like red, like insignia or like a symbol on one side of the craft. I think he would later describe it as kind of like an umbrella shape on top with like an arrow pointing upward and then like a horizontal line underneath. He said it looks really weird, like nothing like he'd ever seen before.
Yeah, and I'm going to chime in. If I remember correctly, he came out later and he said that he saw the shape, and he told some cops, and they remembered with the insignia. And when an intelligence agent got involved in that, they told him to not say that anymore.
Yeah,
and come up with another.
That was the main thing that they didn't really want him to talk about.
They didn't want him talking about where the symbol really looked. So it didn't look the way he described. It looked like something else. And Zamora, my squad leader, I remembered vaguely what he said the shape really was. We'll talk about it.
Okay, yeah, when we get to that, like whenever.
Right.
Because I just remember because if you see like a documentary about it or something like that, it usually has. I've seen a couple different iterations of it, but it
now
usually
the thing about Officer Zamora, this is the same for his son too. They were real patriotic, real kind of. They were police and they came from police and military and government functionary type backgrounds. They really like respected the government, law and order, and honor. They were real honorable family. If the government told you to shut your mouth and to change it because national security, you do it. That's the way they were. And as far as what I vaguely remember Sergeant Zamora, my squad leader, saying, I don't think his dad ever told him what the symbol actually was, just described kind of what it looked like. He said, we'll get to it in a minute, a bunch of lines.
Yeah, I've heard that description as well. I think that came out a bit later.
Yeah, it was a bunch of lines, and we'll get into what it probably was on the side. But okay.
Okay. Dave is here. Hey, he says hello, you two. Happy last day of November. Yeah, it's my sister's birthday today. So happy birthday, Amanda. I'm gonna go see her this Sunday. So actually, we won't be doing a matinee show on Sunday because I will be going to my sister's birthday dinner. So, you know. I'll remind y'all again anyway.
Yeah.
But today is actually her birthday. She's just not down here yet. So he radioed to dispatch and said where he was and said what the situation was. So he parks the police car and gets out and like starts to approach this whatever it is. Now, he said that almost as soon as he got out of the car, that roaring sound came back, and there was like a blue flame like shooting out of the underside of this egg-shaped whatever this was. Now, he thought it was going to maybe blow up. I mean, he doesn't know what the fuck this is, right? So he basically like hits the dirt, right, as you would. So then like he kind of like goes back to his car, kind of backing away, I guess, like trying to get back to the car, like while still watching like whatever the hell is going. Now, he said that the roar started getting just louder and louder, and it was rising in frequency, going from a lower pitch to a higher pitch. And then he said it went up in the air, like directly upward like that. And he said there was like the blue flame with kind of like orange tinges around the edges, like underneath it. Now, he said at this point he could very clearly see that it was like an egg shape because he was like really close to it, and he could still see the red like symbol on the side of the thing. And he said that it looked like he didn't see any doors or windows, like everything looked really smooth, like you couldn't see any rivets or anything like that, basically. And I was thinking to myself, I was like I guess it was like Mork and Mindy. It looked like Mork's ship. Well, wasn't Mork's ship like an actual egg?
Yeah.
I think it was.
It's a lot smaller. This is bigger, though. And
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he said it had legs on it.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's another thing, is that they were asking him about the legs, and I've heard like two different. So it's like some of the stuff said he didn't say that he saw legs, but then some of the reenactments I've seen, and in some of the other like sources that I read, said that he said that there was legs. There's either 4 legs, or it's like 4 main legs and like 4 more smaller ones, so like 8 legs in total, like pretty much.
Because I remember Sergeant Zamora said that it had legs on it, and it was 4, from what I remember.
Yeah,
4. Now, it may have had 4 other things, but they weren't legs. They might have been little antenna spike type things.
Yeah, I think that
coming
was
out through the bottom.
I think that was the implication.
Yeah,
that the 4 ones were the main,
or little veins or something.
Right.
But it was 4 legs with round pads, circular pads on them, so it didn't sink into the ground.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and then another thing too, because I remember like I heard a snippet of an interview with him where they were asking about landing gear.
Yeah.
And he said like, because they were asking him, well, when it took off, like did the legs like, you know, retract back into the thing or what? And he said that he wasn't really looking at it at that point, so he wasn't really sure. Yeah. So I guess that it did have legs. But yeah, but it was like 4 main legs. I think the kind of overarching thing was it had 4 main legs and then maybe like 4 smaller things, like you said, that were just kind of like spikes sticking out.
It fits what my Sergeant Zamora told me so far.
Okay.
And based on what he said, they thought it was the legs didn't retract. They were out the whole time. But
yeah, I was just watching like a reenactment of it where they had an animation and they very clearly showed the legs retracting, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that like he didn't say that. Like he said that he didn't see what happened with if there was landing gear.
It was egg shaped. It had 4 legs on it with round landing gear, and there were 2 guys in it wearing white flight suits.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it had a symbol on the side, although we don't know what the symbol was. The symbol that he gives, an umbrella thing with a arrow, that was a cover story, and it probably wasn't red. It was probably black. It was a black symbol. According to my Sergeant Zamora, it was a series of lines.
Interesting.
That has a use. I'll get into it
Oh,
later.
okay. That'll be interesting because I didn't see anything about that. Zach says, by the way, Jenny, I sent you some notes for that story idea I had. Yeah, I saw that. I just haven't had time to read it yet because I got like really behind again. I'm always behind. But you know what I mean. I'll get to it like tomorrow, I promise. Or I'll try to. Okay. So it starts like going up, like I said, and then he said when it was about 20 feet off the ground, it stopped and like hovered there. for a few seconds. So at this point, Lonnie's starting to freak out a little bit, like, I guess as you would. And he's basically like, well, he doesn't know what's going to happen now. Like, are more flames going to come out or, you know, something. So they said he covered his face up. He said he covered his face up with his arms, which is probably why he didn't see anything, like, with landing gear or whatever. So he said when he took his arm away, that the thing was moving in a straight line, like, away from him, but, like, really fast. He said that it was probably 10 to 15 feet off the ground. He said there was a dynamite shack, like, right by it, and it went over it, and it was about 3 feet over the roof.
So it didn't go high. Yeah.
No, so not high. It was, like, still pretty low. And he said it was very, very fast, and then it seemed to, like, rise up and just take off. Like, and kind of... He could still see it for a while, but it was going, like, really, really fast. So he runs back to his car.
That all checks out with what
Lonnie
Zamora said. Yep. And I think he said there was a car on the road also saw it. A couple saw it cross the road. I think he said there was some other witnesses. I think.
I'm gonna get into that too.
I don't know if I think it was him that said that there was some witnesses on a road that saw it go over the road. I'm pretty sure I heard that from Zamora.
Yeah, that checks out.
Okay.
I'm gonna get into that in a little bit. Yeah, because there were other people that, like, corroborated.
Yeah, and it
the
matched
story.
up with.
He wasn't the only person
that saw it.
Saw it. He was the only person that saw it, like, close up.
Right.
But he wasn't the only person that saw it.
Yeah, I think it was a man and a woman.
No, it was two guys.
2 guys. Okay.
It was 2 guys. It was like tourists or something. But that I've always been the only thing. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So he gets back to the car and he radios the police desk, and he tells the guy, "Hey, look out the window and tell me if you see anything, like, flying over," because I guess that was, like, the general area. So he kept watching it, and he said, like I said, that he could still see it, like, for a while as it was, like, going out over, like, the canyon or whatever. Now, as soon as he couldn't see it anymore, there was another police officer, another sergeant, Sam Chavez, and he showed up at the location because he'd heard, like, the radio calls earlier. He said when he got there, that Lonnie Zamora looked what he called white as a plate. I've also heard white as a corpse, but I don't know which one of those is correct. Anyway, he was, like, super pale. And he was, like, really, really shocked. He was in shock, like, clearly. Like, he was really scared. Yeah. Now, when they go and look at where, because he was like, look, this thing was, like, right here. And they go to investigate the area. And they said that they called it burning brush, quote unquote. They said that there was kind of smoke. There was no flames, but there was kind of, like, smoke coming up from this little area where the thing had been sitting. And then Chavez said that he saw what appeared to be 8 imprints. Like, 4 of the indentations were really big and rectangular and, deeper. Okay. While the other 4 were, like, littler and round.
Yeah, okay.
So 4, like, big, deep, square, like, rectangular ones, and 4, like,
that fits
shallower. Yeah.
That fits kind of what he told me. I thought they were big round ones, but okay, yeah, square. That'll work too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so like I said, it's kind of like, because I kind of feel like Lonnie said at some points that he hadn't noticed any legs, or then, like, later he did say he noticed, like, I'm not really sure, because I've heard both things, and like I said, I didn't interview the guy myself, so I don't really know.
I think it was legs, and then something kind of like bent type of rebar thing. That way, if you pressed down on the craft, it wouldn't bottom out on the bottom of the fuselage. It would bottom out on these, you know what I mean, metal L-shaped things that went down. They were kind of like fins, but they, something like that. That way the bottom of the craft wouldn't touch the ground.
Yeah.
So it sat on because, when something lands and it weighs a lot, it's got to have a springy suspension. So you don't want the bottom of the craft, if there's nozzles down there that make contact with the ground. So you got to have guard around it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So that's what happened. It landed, and those little guards bottomed out on the ground when it landed. That's why it left indentations there.
I'm kind of wondering now, because I've seen a couple different animations of this, like in different documentaries and stuff. And in some of the reenactments, the craft is like an egg on its side, like that. But then in one reenactment I was watching earlier, it was like that.
Yeah, it was pointed up.
So I didn't know which way was correct because he didn't really specify. Because I think if it was me, if I saw the shit, I'd be like, oh, it was like an egg standing upright, or it was like an egg like on its side. You know what I mean?
No, from what I remember, what Zamora said, it was standing straight up like an egg, and it had legs on the bottom of it.
Okay, so that means that the reenactment that I just watched on Quest, which was like 12 or 13 minutes long, was correct because they had the egg upright like that.
Basically a rocket.
Yeah.
What you're describing is like an egg-shaped rocket with legs.
Egg with legs.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so the incident kind of pretty much hours later, like the press got wind of it, and then a few days later, pretty much like all the UFO researchers and all the Associated Press and all that stuff kind of descended on Socorro to check this out, because you know what I mean. Every time there's like a UFO sighting or something like that. You also had groups like the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, all those kind of people. They also came out. And also, the Air Force would send out representatives from Project Blue Book to do an official investigation. Now, one of the first people to show up was a guy from the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, NICAP, and his name was Ray Stanford. Now, he actually kind of got to talk to a lot of the witnesses, like, before the story, like, got really, really big, like, before it went, like, national or whatever. Now, he actually found a person who had been driving through the area. Like I said, it was actually two people who had been driving through the area, and he actually found that person. I'll kind of talk about them in a minute. But there was also another corroborating report. There was a person who had called a TV station in Albuquerque at 5:30 p.m., which was about 15 minutes before, before Lonnie Zamora had his sighting. And at 5:30 p.m., this person in Albuquerque called the TV station and said that they saw an oval object flying at low altitude and very, very slowly, heading towards Socorro. So that's somebody else that saw it, like, heading toward that area. Like, and this was before, anybody had heard anything about it. There were also a bunch of witnesses that came forward and said that they had heard, that corroborated, like, the loud roaring sound, that they had heard the sound at the same time that Lonnie Zamora claimed that he had heard it. And a couple of them heard the second roar as well, because, like I said, it roared 2 times. And they also discovered that there had been 3 reports of people who had called the police and reported a bright glowing object, like, rising up into the sky. So there were 3 separate reports of that from that same night. And again, those all reports were received before anything, had gotten really, like, public or anything like that. There was also somebody that had reported something from La Madera in New Mexico, and the FBI actually went out and checked out that one. On the same day that that the Zamora incident occurred, somebody else in that section of New Mexico reported a UFO, and they never did figure out what that was. Like, they reported some kind of weird craft, and they couldn't figure out what it was. Now, also, 2 days after the Lonnie Zamora incident, on April 26th, at about 1 in the morning, a resident around there they heard all their horses, like, kind of being all, like, what the fuck, like, making all kind of weird noises and stuff. And he went out to see what was going on, and he saw something that he described as shaped like a butane tank landing on the ground. So that was kind of, like, nearby. And then he said he saw it take off, and it had blue-white flames on the underside. And that he also found 4 indentations on the ground and, like, 4 smaller ones inside, just like Lonnie Zamora had reported. And there was also a circular patch of ground that was burned, like where the landing site had been, and it stayed like that for quite a while.
And they don't mention any smoke, do they?
Yeah, they did.
Smoke?
They did. They said there was no flames, but that, like, some of the stuff was, like, smoking.
No, I'm saying when it's flying in the air, it's not leaving a trail of smoke behind
Oh,
it.
nobody said anything about that, I don't think.
All right.
Slasher Fred said sounds like an Unsolved Mysteries episode. This was on Unsolved Mysteries a long time ago. I don't remember what season it was or what year it was, but that was when I first heard about it.
Lack of smoke tells me something. We'll talk about it later.
Well, you can talk about it now if you want to, while I take a drink.
All I can say is whatever kind of combustion that is, it's real clean, and it's not T-Stoff and C-Stoff, which was a normal 1940s, 1950s hypergolic rocket fuel. Left a lot of smoke behind. Well, it wasn't smoke; it was more like water vapor. You know, I think it was more water vapor than anything else. So whatever it is, it's burning real clean. But okay. But the roaring sound, it checks out with a rocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I know what it is. And I think Lonnie Zamora, senior later on, or junior, because I don't know. I think my Zamora's, I think his dad was a junior, which would have meant that my Zamora was the third, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think his name was Lonnie also.
Or junior.
That would have been the third.
Lonnie the third.
Yeah.
Junior.
And he told everybody what they kind of thought it was eventually, based on everything. But that's never heard it in the public sphere, because there's incentive to keep a story exciting. You know, it's still exciting what it was. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so remember how we said earlier that there were two people that had been passing through the area that also saw the shit? Yeah, they found out, like, who that was later on. What ended up happening was that there was a guy named Opal Grinder. I can't believe that's that dude's real name. But he owned a gas station, which I think was Whiting Brothers. I'm not really sure how you pronounce it. But it was a gas station near where, you know, the whole incident took place. And while the Air Force was investigating, they interviewed him, and he said, I didn't see the ship myself personally, but there was these two dudes who stopped to get gas, and they said they had seen it. So, like, they talked to him about it. They said that that they had heard, like, the loud booming sound of the roaring, and then, like, one of the guys from the car, like, came in to pay for the stuff, like, into the gas station. And he says to the guy that owns the place, he's like, wow, your aircraft fly really low around here, or something like that. And Opal says, yeah, we have a lot of helicopters around here. I mean, it's right near White Sands, you know. He's like, yeah, we have a lot of helicopters around here. And the guy said, it was a funny looking helicopter, if that's what it was. And then, so they ended up finding these two guys. Their names were Larry Kratzner, and that was the guy that had gone inside, and his friend, whose name was Paul Keyes, or Keyes, I'm not really sure. They were actually from Dubuque in Iowa, and they were driving back there at the time because they were, like, on vacation. So they got interviewed in 1978, and a lot of their shit, like, lined up with Lonnie Zamora's stuff. And one of them said, the guy that went in the store, he said, and this is a quote, I saw a cloud of black smoke coming from the ground ahead of us and to the right. I could see a round saucer or egg-shaped object ascending vertically from the black smoke.
Okay, so it did have smoke on it.
That's what he said.
Okay.
So he saw it too.
All right.
Now, he actually said that he could see windows on the side of the object, which actually Lonnie said that he didn't see a doors or windows.
Yeah.
But this guy also said that he saw a red Z on the side of it. Like something that looked like a Z, and it was red.
Yeah.
So that's like another
to what?
Corroborating.
Okay, yeah. It's not quite a Z, though. More like I don't want to say almost like a swastika. Or lines. You know, a German cross, you have like a cross-shaped thing.
Yeah.
And then you have almost kind of like two H's inverted.
Yeah.
Almost like a crosshair type thing.
Right, I got
with
you.
stadia lines.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, I know what you're
That's
talking about.
what it was.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. But the thing about it is that if it was weird looking and you just saw it for like a couple seconds, like you wouldn't necessarily, you know, something would just like, you know, imprint itself in your brain like, oh, it kind of looked like a Z, but not like that. You know what I mean?
More kind of like a crosshair or two H's superimposed, almost kind of like in a swastika fashion. You know how like a swastika is more like two Z's?
Right.
Imagine if it was two H's, like an X with a box, kind of a box around it with an X, but they didn't connect, and then lines. Vertical lines. Stadia lines is what you're talking about. All right, I'll go ahead and say it now.
Yeah.
It's the kind of stadia lines you put on some kind of a test craft when you're using high-speed cameras and what telescopes, so you can get a pretty accurate. Because inside that telescopic camera, there's a bunch of lines in there will help you estimate how far away from the camera it is, which will help you to figure out how fast it's moving.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have GPS back then.
Yeah, they had to do it like the old school way.
That's what it is. What we're talking about is a fucking test craft. Okay, it's a rocket, and it vertical takeoff and landing in the '60s. Something kind of like the lunar lander. In it with a fuselage and windows around it.
Well, spoiler alert, that is one of the explanations.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
Probably what it was.
Yeah,
but
some contractor making this thing and got out of hand. They were very dangerous. Dudes got killed. That's confirmed that they made things like that to test the lunar lander and then to try to get some skills on how to control these things for the flight surfaces and stuff. And dudes got killed. Famous test pilots got killed testing craft like that. It wasn't just one. There must have been a bunch of them. Because maybe they thought there were other applications besides space travel. You know, because one of the priorities in jet combat was vertical landing and takeoff. Because they thought in an atomic war you'd be able to destroy enemy runways. So you wanted a high-performance aircraft that could just sit on the ground and take off and then land on their tail. They were working on that. It had to be some kind of a jet. But jets were real complicated at that time, and it requires a lot to make a jet. So they were also experimenting with rockets. Which rocketry and jets were the same thing if you go back far enough. You know, a lot of times they would call a rocket a jet. Yeah, it's jet powered, and it's actually rocket powered, you know. And sometimes they would refer to a jet as a rocket and a rocket as a jet. They just anything that's shooting something out of the back, they'd call it a rocket or a jet. It wasn't until later when you're talking about compressor blades and fuel injection. But one of the most simple one was like a hypergolic rocket engine, like out of the Messerschmitt Me-163 Comet. You just mix pure hydrogen peroxide and pure, I forgot what the other thing fucking was. Very dangerous fucking chemicals, and they fucking explode like crazy out of a little 40 or 50 pound fucking, I think it was cast iron rocket. And it's just valves, and you'll get thousands and thousands of pounds of thrust out of that shit. It burn up fuel fast, but lots and lots of power. Out of something without any moving parts, made out of junk. So the incentive was to make some kind of rocket with vertical landing and takeoff that could shoot down jets or incoming bombers and stuff. Sounds like something like that. It sounds like a test vehicle for something like that.
Perhaps so.
Probably. And I think you're giving the story so far, the modern audience fucking already knows. It's making smoke and it's making a shit ton of noise and everybody's seeing it. You got little dudes in suits coming out of it and it's got windows on the side.
Little dudes in suits.
Yeah. This is not this is not alien technology. No, that's 60s technology. Jetsons shit. Is exactly what that is.
Yeah, this is what's kind of interesting to me. So the military shows up the day after the incident, like to interview Lonnie Zamora and others. Yeah. So the main guy that came, you got your Army Captain Richard Holder. He was like the guy that was coming from like White Sands, and then you had a guy from the FBI whose name was Arthur Bynes. So they interview Lonnie Zamora. Interestingly, Lonnie Zamora did not say that it was an alien spacecraft. He thought that it was a secret experimental craft. That's what he said in the interview. Yeah, and that's what my Zamora said. But the thing about it though was that that Holder said, no, that's not what it is. And he's basically like, we don't have anything like that. Yeah. So it's almost like Zamora was saying, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like a secret experimental craft.
No, it's not that.
Oh, no, it's not.
Yeah, it's not that. It's a UFO.
It was aliens.
Yeah, it's aliens.
That's supposedly like how that went.
Yeah, that's how
that's supposedly how that went.
That's the same thing that my squad leader Zamora said. He said he said, my dad didn't think it was a UFO. He said it would look man-made. You know. And they told him to, you know, go, oh no, we're going with the UFO story. You want to help out America, you know. And so Lonnie Zamora, Officer Lonnie Zamora, went along with this out of patriotism, the cover story. So.
And man, he just like got made fun of and shit like that all the time. It was kind of sad. After.
Yeah.
James Knapp said Tom knew his son. Yeah.
He was his son was my squad leader in Korea.
Yeah.
I heard the story right from his mouth. Sergeant Zamora, and I didn't know the case that well. I just remembered, what he was saying was ringing a bell, and the guy he was talking to was another NCO, and he goes, "Yeah, that was your dad," and he's like, "Yeah, it was my dad." And he knew the case a lot better than I did because it was legendary. These guys were a little bit older than me, maybe 4 or 5 years older, so you know it was famous to them. To me, it was just like something you saw in Unsolved Mysteries. You know, I'd heard about it a couple times. But Sergeant Zamora said that his dad said it was a test craft.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that checks out with the thing that I read.
Yeah.
They said during the first interview with the military, he said he thought it was a secret test craft. He didn't say he thought it was aliens.
Mm.
And they told him,
we going with the alien story.
Pretty much. It's like I don't know if they said that outright, but that was kind of like what the implication was.
According to my Sergeant Zamora, they were kind of pushing him along, going, "Come on, you know, you're a good American. You know, you want to help out your country. We're going to go with this. You know, it was that kind of deal." And I think they rewarded him, if I remember correctly, for going along with it. Like they were cutting him checks to go.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, they were paying him for his time.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the same thing as cutting a check.
They should pay him for.
We're going to pay you for your time. We're going to make sure you're compensated for your time. To So, and he's helping the country, and they're paying him, and they're paying him to help cover up this research craft. And you can say, well, it's government research. Nah, it wasn't even government. You're talking about McDonnell Douglas and fucking Northrop Grumman, and it's those guys. They were the contractors. But the government steps in to protect the contractors. They were working together, the military-industrial complex, you know. So he just kind of got caught up in it. But even back when he was telling the story, and I was at guard post call, you're listening to it, Sergeant Zamora at no time said that it was alien.
Yeah, I don't think he ever did. Like, no. He said he didn't know what it was, and he thought it was weird, but he didn't think it was alien.
I'm talking about my Sergeant Zamora.
Oh, okay.
He said his dad didn't think that it was alien. Said that it was some kind of test craft, but that they didn't want him talking about it. Because it had already gotten out of the bag by the time they got there. So they were just trying to play cleanup.
That's how they do.
Yeah. Disinformation. Or misinformation.
Omri Van Peer said, have y'all ever heard about Jack Parsons, the guy who invented rocket fuel, who was inspired by the Kabbalah and other occult practices?
Heard him.
Yeah, we did
Blew himself up.
We did a show about him, actually. That might have been the last UFO kind of adjacent show that we did, was it? It wasn't that long ago. Maybe a year? So we were in this house. So it was sometime in the last year or so that we did a show about Jack Parsons. I remember. Yeah, he was an interesting dude. So basically, after they interviewed Lonnie Zamora, like the day after the incident, the funny thing, in a lot of documentaries, as I pointed this out, was that Holder and Burns, like Burns was the FBI guy, they would go to the landing location to check it out, but they went there in the dark and they only had flashlights. And then they went and like cordoned off the area and like took a bunch of samples and everything. Now, a couple of later books and reports and stuff have claimed that the reason they went in there was because they wanted to take these samples of fused sand. Like they said, because like they said that it was so hot that it fused the sand into glass. And so they went in there and like took it so that nobody could see it like when the sun came up, you know what I mean? There's no proof of that happening, but that's kind of like the rumor that was going around, that they had taken like this kind of fused sand glass from like underneath where the ship was. And a couple people have kind of were in on it, like knew something about that, but I don't know if that's true or not. So basically, there was a guy who came there like from Project Blue Book, right? Whose name was Alan Hynek.
Yeah.
And he came to Socorro like 4 days after the incident. So he actually didn't show up until April 28th. Now, when he got there, like, because I think some people from the Air Force had already been there, and because they were kind of like busting Lonnie Zamora's and Sam Chavez's chops, like saying, oh, we just think it's a hoax and you guys are idiots or whatever, they were kind of being like jerks to them. So, so Zamora and Chavez were a little bit pissed off with the Air Force at this point. So, like, when Alan Hynek showed up, they was like, at first they didn't really want to talk to them because they thought, well, you Air Force people have really been douches to us, like, so far, like telling us that we're hoaxing or that we just fell for a hoax or some shit like that. So, you know, so it took them a while to kind of like get them to talk to them. Now, basically, it's kind of like, I think Alan Hynek, when he got there, I don't know if he was necessarily like knew what, because the Air Force had already been there, I guess. And when Alan Hynek got there, he was like, I think that the Air Force, he said it, like he wrote later, he said the Air Force doesn't know what science is. And I mean, because Hynek actually believed that there was something to this. I don't know if he actually believed it was, it seems like by implication he did actually believe it was extraterrestrial.
Yeah, well, there was physical evidence. There was damn
Right.
burn spots on the ground where something real hot took off. Big old black spot.
So he seemed to like not have much patience with
Yeah.
like the way the rest of the Air Force were like treating it, like, oh, it was just like a hoax or this is nothing or something like
Right.
that, because it's like it's clearly something.
Well, they were ordered to say it was a hoax.
Right, that's what
Why?
I'm saying.
They're the
So
Air Force.
he was getting kind of disillusioned.
Yeah,
I'm
they-
saying.
The Air Force probably was ordered to, hey, this one's a hoax, okay?
Yeah.
Because it's just a hoax. Because, you know, shit, they're working on something for them. Or the contractors are making some kind of aircraft for them. So,
Yeah.
of course, they're going to say it's a hoax.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's a vertical landing and takeoff hypergolic rocket fighter, the test bed for it, so you can intercept incoming nuclear bombers, you know? That's what they're talking about. The Germans were trying to make shit like that in World War II. To stop our incoming bombers, just regular fucking explosive bombs. Well, the fucking stakes were much higher in the atomic age. This is Dr. Strangelove shit, you know? And the idea of vertical landing and takeoff, something to shoot down incoming bombers, was a good idea. They didn't have good missile guidance back then. It wasn't like you could just launch a fucking ultrasonic rocket and have it successfully hit an incoming bomber, you know, hundreds of miles away. Nah. The guidance wasn't that good. I mean, they had stuff to do that, but a lot of the stuff had a fucking nuclear warhead on it, and it got within a couple miles and then just blew up in the air because it was hard. They didn't have guidance right back then. Okay, have you ever seen what was it, Dr. Strangelove? Remember that missile that was tracking them down? That missile never hit them. It was a mile away when it blew up. Because remember, it started to diverge.
Yeah.
There's a proximity fuse on there giving out a fucking radio signal. When the returns get shorter, the missile knows it's closing. If it ever gets longer again, it knows it's losing track. It just blows up and just hopes that you knock the bomber out. Well, they were so inaccurate, you had to put a fucking atomic bomb on the tip of it. That was the only way you were going to, because you were lucky to get a mile away from that thing. Or, to get within a mile, of some of that stuff. So, something like this might be a good idea. Something you could actually pilot, and get it close to, and shoot down a bomber. The Germans wanted it back in World War II, but that seems like what they're talking about. A test craft to get the landing and takeoff part right. And once you got landing and takeoff of this rocket right, you can then build a fighter craft around that. But you don't spend all that money trying to do it all at once. You do it in stages.
Well, yeah, you can't build the whole thing.
Can't build the
just
whole
like,
thing.
we fucked it up.
Yeah, they start off with something that's just real simple and
Back
cheap.
to the drawing board.
And landing these things and taking them off, man, it was never successful. Dudes got killed. They were trying to do it with propeller planes, jets, rockets. It's just before the age of computers, the chances of you being able to land on your tail, nah. Those dudes wiped out constantly.
Well, that's why like all the 50s sci-fi movies
Yeah.
like always had the alien spacecraft looking like that, because I guess
Yeah.
that was something that they really like wanted to
Yeah, that's
do,
what they
you know?
wanted. So, you know, you had the lunar lander, them legs on it. Maybe they thought they could do it that way. Well, we'll just put legs on it, and you kind of sit horizontally in it during the landing procedure, and then when you're flying forward, later on, we'll rotate the seats, and you can look out the nose and fly it forward. You know, but that transition period is going to be rough. I don't think you'd be able to successfully transition that thing. Maybe you would. You're just moving the cockpit or the like a little ball. You know what I mean? To rotate it. But this is all before computers, so you'd have to have mechanical linkages for all your controls. You know, they had computers, but they weren't any good. You
Everything was
couldn't
such a
depend
fucking pain before
yeah,
computers.
yeah. They had computers, but they weren't any good. They weren't.
I
Fast
know
enough.
they figured shit out, but it's
Yeah.
just like, you know, and actually it's amazing that they figured shit out. It's
Yeah.
like nowadays it seems like everything's so easy.
Yeah. I mean, the computer on the lunar lander was a modern day calculator would blow it away.
Yeah.
You know, a
Which is-
calculator from the '80s would have blown it away.
That's what I mean. It's like they
Yeah.
they landed on the moon in 90s with like fucking rubber bands and gum
Yeah.
and tinfoil pretty
Yeah.
much, and slide rules, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
So this is before that. By
Yeah.
several years. So there
Yeah,
were no
this was
computers.
1964. This was
Yeah.
1964.
Still basically the 50s. There wasn't a big difference between the 50s and 64. Technology wasn't moving ahead that fast, really.
No.
Especially not computer technology. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. No.
You are looking more like Anton LaVey every day. I'm just not looking at you in the fucking... Nothing wrong with that.
I don't know.
James Knapp said, your iPhone is more powerful than the lunar lander from Apollo. That's true. Which, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that
Well,
now
I said a calculator's stronger.
Yeah, I mean, everybody
Yeah.
now just carries around in their pocket
Yeah.
like a fucking supercomputer that,
Yeah.
you know, people just even... When I was a kid, like, you wouldn't even have
Yeah.
conceived of that, which
Nope.
is amazing.
No.
We take it for granted because, you know, we've been
Yeah.
here through every stage of it. So we were like, oh, neat, like when each new thing happened. But if you had just jumped ahead,
A person of the 40s, 1940s, and 1950s could have never imagined that. We were kids in the 80s, and I couldn't imagine a cell phone linking
No,
with
me
the
neither.
internet and an internet and how powerful an internet would be. No.
like, it doesn't wig me out because, like I said, I started using computers when
Yeah.
I was, you know, in 3rd grade, but they were like the really old janky,
Yeah.
like you had to write your own programs in DOS and shit like that. And it's like, oh, let's play Wagon Train. They're all like text
yeah,
related, you know what I mean? Or like little lines and shit.
yeah. We watched the technology.
We watched it all
mature.
happen like in
Yeah.
real time.
Yeah, early internet from the 90s, mid 90s internet. That was a fucking trip, man.
It was, yeah. Oregon
Yeah.
Trail. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
Oregon Trail. Everybody loved playing Oregon Trail, man.
Wizardry too.
I wrote a Mad Libs program when I was in 4th or 5th grade. Like, and I was so excited, I thought I was like a fucking tech wizard or some shit. Cause you had to, like I said, you had to write your own programming, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, Ben Frail says, your iPhone is more powerful than every computer on Earth in the 1970s.
Yep.
Yeah. Murder Hornet says,
And there's
we
a
would carry unworkable beepers in high school in early 90s just to look cool. And I remember, too, and it's funny because I was just reading something about, like, a movie that had that the other day, where it's like, you know, for a long time, they had cell phones and car phones, but only super rich people could afford them because they were really expensive, and also they were big as a fucking brick. So some people would have, like, there was a market for, like, fake ones.
Yeah.
So you could, like, pretend you were, like, a rich drug dealer or something.
Somebody asked if there was a missile in Dr. Strangelove. Yeah, don't you remember when the B-52 that Slim Pickens was piloting in Russian airspace? The Russians fired that missile at it, and that missile would track them across, 30 miles probably? Maybe
Yeah,
it was 30
something like
miles.
that.
It tracked them for 30 miles, and they were trying to dodge it.
Yeah, that's right. We just watched it.
Yeah, and they just got into a real high... They went into a steep bank and got down real low, and the missile kind of lost lock a little bit and started to diverge away from it, and then its warhead went off as it had an atomic warhead, because it was 2 miles away, I think, when it blew, and it still damaged the aircraft pretty bad. Because that's how they did it back then. It was like Missile Command. Remember the damn video game Missile Command? It should blow up. You're stopping incoming bombers and missiles with other nuclear missiles. Because they didn't have guidance. The guidance wasn't good enough back then. The computers were weak.
Yeah.
And it was probably a radar-guided missile anyway.
I'm Van Pearson. When I was a kid, flat screen TVs were like $10,000. I never thought I'd have one. Now I have 5.
Yeah, you got one in your pocket now.
Well, and the thing, you can just like watch shit on your. But even flat screen TVs, they're like so cheap nowadays.
This is better than anything out of damn Star Trek Next Generation. Even like Star Trek Voyager.
Remember you can watch anything in the world, just all they.
Yeah, remember that little clear plastic things they're touching and the control. Yeah.
Yeah, 70s VCRs were thousands. I remember when VCRs were really expensive. Like, we had a Betamax, and, because, everybody thought that was going to be, because it was, it was better technology, but it just didn't win out in the end. And we didn't have a VCR until, we got a VCR, I guess, like in the early to mid 80s. I can't remember. It was probably like earlier 80s, 82, something like that. But it was really, really expensive. We had to get one that was like second or third hand. I think my dad got one that like fell off the back of a truck or something like that because he couldn't afford a new one.
Bleardo remembers Missile Command and Space War. Yeah, Missile Command. You're shooting down the damn killer satellites and the fucking incoming bombers and all the damn. My cousin Wesley was fucking great at it. He was deaf and he could sit there and he just totally focus on it. And he could basically play Missile Command forever. You could just until he got tired. It was amazing. He'd fucking attract whole crowds of people. But it had to have that trackball, and it had to have the big trackball, not the little trackball. As long as you had that big trackball.
I liked the trackball better than that. And I found that I was better at video games like Centipede and stuff like that if it had the trackball rather than the joystick.
Yeah.
It was more intuitive. It was kind of like more sensitive, I guess.
Well, there were two. It was the same Missile Command, but some of the like the sit down table ones had a small white trackball, but the stand up one had a big, heavy black trackball. And once you got it rolling, you could keep it rolling, and it was just I don't know. Wesley was really good at that one because he'd spray out a whole line of atomic explosions out in layers and defend all those damn cities from those incoming nukes. It was a fun game, and it would change colors, and every level was fucking different colors, combinations.
It was easy to entertain us back then.
Yeah, it got faster and faster. Yeah, you play it now, and you're like, fuck this. You don't care. This is just gonna go on forever. But you didn't.
It's just more of this. Okay.
Yeah, more of this is gonna get faster. But back then, you weren't sure what would happen because you didn't know how it ended, or if it did end.
Right.
It didn't end. Just like Pac-Man, it doesn't end.
And I mean, to be clear, there wasn't really much else to do.
To
be honest with you.
Pac-Man doesn't end. It just keeps giving you keys over and over again. Keys.
It just gets faster and faster.
Yeah, and I think it gets to a point where it doesn't get any faster.
Well, obviously. It
stays like that. Wesley maxed out Pac-Man. I think he said he got 60-something keys. He was counting them.
And finally the game was just like, would you stop? Please go
well,
away.
What happens is law of averages gets you. You're going to make a mistake. And you're going to forget. It was all patterns. Going through it into pattern. Eventually you make an error in it, and you can't make up for lost grounds, and little ghosts get you.
Little ghosts get you.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to the case.
Okay. Let's see. I was around during Pac-Man Fever. Yeah, remember that song? Yeah. There was a song called Pac-Man Fever. I remember them playing it at the roller rink.
That shit was probably terrible.
In the early 80s. It was.
It's kind of like the Star Wars song, right?
Which Star Wars
song? The disco Star Wars song. Don't you remember
Oh, yeah. I hadn't thought about that for a long time.
I haven't heard that in a long time, yeah.
Honestly, the only part of the Pac-Man Fever song I remember is the chorus part. I don't remember it. Did it have other words? Or
I don't remember it.
I just remember them playing it at the skating rink all the time.
I remember there was a Pac-Man song, but I don't remember the song.
Like when I don't remember who did it. I don't remember nothing about it.
I remember when Donkey Kong came. Fucking everybody loved Donkey Kong.
I like Donkey Kong. It wasn't my favorite though.
And then it came out for home consoles, and they just went out of their way to make it as shitty as possible. And the only one that was any good, I think, was ColecoVision was pretty good. I think it was ColecoVision. It's been a long
Yeah,
time.
we didn't have Coleco.
Yeah.
We had like the knockoff Atari, which
Yeah,
was
it-
called Odyssey.
Yeah,
We
I
had-
had those too.
we
yeah.
had that.
I had the Odyssey 2.
Yeah, we had that.
What was funny about the Odyssey 2 is that it was more expensive than the. I think it was more expensive than the Atari, and it didn't have as many games, and the graphics were a little bit better when it came out. But really, you wanted the Atari. That's where it had more.
Well, yeah,
games.
all the cool kids had Atari.
Yeah.
If you were losers like us, you had,
had
the
Odyssey.
Yeah.
Odyssey 2. Yeah. And
So you couldn't get. There was games for it, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like Atari. You, could
No.
see, you know what I mean?
Atari had millions of games.
It did, yeah. Ben said, and then along came Miss Pac-Man. I actually liked
Yeah.
Miss Pac-Man better than regular Pac-Man.
I had one called Vectrex. It was Vectorscope, kind of like Space War or Tempest. Remember the white lines? You remember that one? It
Yeah,
had its own
yeah.
screen.
Yeah, I remember.
It had some pretty good games in it. Had a tank game. I think it was called Armored Attack. Had some driving games. It had a weird one. It was like you're fucking a bird. This bird flying through a weird net. I forgot what that one was called. Solar or something or other. It was original games. They were pretty good.
Well, I mean, when the video game boom came along, they were
Yeah.
just putting out any bullshit. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a whole documentaries about that. It's fascinating, actually, but it's just like any new technology that comes along. Everybody's gonna be like, now it's like now in smartphone apps. It's like most of the time, you know, there's a bunch of good ones, but then there's like a bunch of shitty cheap ones. You know what I'm saying?
Eventually, it got to the point where fucking I just took the Vectrex and threw it away. I was in a pawn shop one time. Says I got this thing called a Vectrex. He goes, yeah, nah, I don't want them. They don't even want them.
Yeah.
Because games are moving so fast. I bet you a Vectrex is probably worth a lot now. It's probably
Well, yeah,
collector's item.
because every pawn shop
Yeah.
in America probably told them we don't want
We
that,
don't
and
want that
everybody
thing.
threw it away.
Yeah, just threw the shit away. Got tired of fucking playing it and carrying that bitch around, like carrying around a television set. Well, it wasn't that big. It was about that big.
Still.
Yeah. It had a good representation of Scramble in it, though. Remember the little one where you're dropping the bombs and shooting stuff?
Oh, yeah, I remember
Scramble.
that one.
Yeah,
Remember Dig Dug?
Yeah, Dig Dug, yeah.
I used to like Dig Dug.
I just downloaded the Namco Arcade. It was free on for Xbox 360, and then for a dollar, I got fucking Street Fighter. Street Fighter 2. Trying to figure out the controls.
Yeah, Tom's got all the 80s
I got all the 80s
video games like on his thing.
I got the Midway Arcade. I got fucking everything from Sega Genesis. Got them all on
Ooh, you got
Xbox.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Got Sonic the Hedgehog.
Ooh, I used to really like
I think it's got all the
back in
Sonics.
90s.
It's got all of the fucking. I think it was only $20, and you get everything that Sega had.
Damn.
Including Altered Beast. Fucking remember Altered Beast?
Kinda.
It had the Greek motif. And
Oh,
you
yeah,
get
yeah,
bigger and
okay.
bigger.
Yeah,
you get
yeah.
roided out eventually, and then you turn into a damn werewolf.
As
You're
you
fighting
do.
Greek ghosts. Yeah, some crazy shit, man.
Ben says retro arcade game show when? Oh yeah, we should probably do that
Yeah.
one of these days.
I got the Namco one because I also wanted to play what was it, Ghosts and Goblins, or is it called Ghouls and Ghosts? I think it's called Ghosts and Goblins.
I
They
don't
do,
remember.
they do the jumping, trying to get up into damn Dracula's castle,
Yeah.
throwing fucking knives and shit. Yeah.
The only one I remember like that was Castlevania. I used to play that all the
Yeah.
time. But I think that shit's still around. But I used to play the old one like that was on
Yeah.
Nintendo.
It's got a 1941 is on it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Ghosts and Goblins. That's
Ghosts
what
and
it was
Goblins.
called.
Yeah.
He said it was so damn hard to finish.
Yeah, hard to
That's it.
finish.
I don't
You had
remember
to get
that.
the jumping right.
You'll have to show it to me because I'm sure I've seen
You'd
it.
recognize it as soon as you saw it.
But I don't. There were so many. It's like I don't even remember.
Yeah.
And I wasn't like super into gaming. Like we had a Nintendo, and you know I used to play Zelda, and I used to play Castlevania and shit like that. And then we had Sega later, and then I played. I liked Metroid too. I used to play
Yeah.
Metroid, and I played Sonic the Hedgehog. But like other than that, and Tetris. But that's
Yeah.
like about all I got into. Like I was doing other shit.
Namco Arcade is free on Xbox 360. And you get an actual arcade. You're standing in arcade. You can walk around and you can see the games. The stand-up game. You go up and you play them. And then
See, that's fucking brilliant. I
it's
like that.
you're in
I
the
like
arcade.
that idea.
Then you can customize how the fucking cabinets look and everything.
I
You
like
got to figure
that
out how to do it. I just got it before we started the show, though.
Oh, really? You just got it?
Just
now?
got it because it was free.
Oh, okay.
I want to play Street Fighter because I've been playing Puzzle Fighter Turbo, I think is what it's called, where it's like Tetris based on Street Fighter, where you got to move these colors around and make big gems and blow them all up, and then you got the two. You'd like it when you see it.
Yeah, I probably
And you
would.
select a character, and it looks like they're fighting, but they're not really fighting. They're just threatening each other, and then they blow up. They don't really blow up. They get their asses kicked. Puzzle Fighter. It's like a Tetris version of Street Fighter. It's got the same characters in there.
That's hilarious because
Yeah.
they're like, what are two really popular games that have absolutely nothing to do with each other? Let's like mash those together. And
It's
see how
fucking
that
Japanese
works
as fuck. They're all speaking Japanese. And, yeah.
out. Yeah, that sounds like sounds very Japanese.
Half of them are girls, and half the characters are girls, and they're, flashing boobs and fucking upskirting and shit like that.
Oh, that's why you wanted it.
It's just everything. It's everything. They're also SD, super deformed. So they're short and squat. They don't look realistic.
Yeah,
They look like little things.
little thing.
Ken and Ryu and all the guys from Street Fighter.
That's pretty cute.
Yeah, Chun-Li.
Okay, you'll have to show it to me later.
You'd like it. It's got good music. The thing is, though, is that I had another version of it. Is when you beat things, you unlock bonuses that had songs and all kinds of shit. This one's not unlocking anything. At least not at the difficulty level I'm at. Maybe you got to be on the expert difficulty level before it starts unlocking bonus stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a...
Oh well, I don't
Because
know what to tell you.
The stuff for PlayStation, the PlayStation version unlocks stuff, bonus stuff,
Yeah.
bonus characters and stuff.
Oh well.
Yeah,
All right, so let's get back to this
Yeah.
because otherwise we'll be here all night.
yeah. You're talking about Contra and stuff.
I know. That's the thing. Like we get off on these fucking tangents.
Yeah, Ben's talking about, man, he used to play Puzzle Fighter after school. Fun. Yeah, that's right. The South Wales Puzzle Fighter, Puzzle
God.
Fighter 2. That's right. Damn.
Yeah, they're very noisy outside.
No, they're noisy.
It's
Really
very
noisy.
noisy.
Do you want another drink?
Yeah, might as well while you're up. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, one of the big points of contention that it seemed like they got to Lonnie Zamora like pretty early about this whole symbol that he saw on the side of this craft or whatever, because literally like the day after he saw this stuff, he was giving an interview with a radio station, and this was actually part of like I heard part of this interview like on a documentary I was watching. And they asked him about, oh, did you say, you saw a symbol like on the side of this thing or whatever? And he said, I couldn't tell you that because they don't want me to say anything about the markings. Like he said that, like, and the radio station guy was like, well, if we run into an area where you don't like that they don't want you to talk about, then just say so. So they'd already got to him like that day when they told him, hey, maybe don't talk about like the symbol that you saw. So like I said, even though he did describe the symbol as he described it as like a crescent shape with a vertical arrow pointed upward inside the crescent and then like a horizontal bar underneath that. I'm not really sure if that's what he actually saw or if that was like the cover story they told him or whatever. I'm not really sure because Tom is saying that his son said that wasn't actually what the symbol looked like, but he wasn't supposed to say what the symbol actually looked like, so I'm not really sure. Let's see. There also, like I said, he's pretty clear. Like Lonnie Zamora, as I mentioned, he doesn't say during the interviews that he thought that it was from outer space. All he said that he said that it was something he hadn't seen before, and he thought that it was maybe an experimental craft. I don't think he ever came out and said that he thought it was from outer space. And like I said, Tom said his son said the same thing, that he didn't think it was an extraterrestrial spacecraft, and he never came out and said that. So there was another thing that was kind of like swirling around about this, and that some people had reported that around where the craft was, I think, that there were like footprints where he had seen the people, but the footprints kind of looked like hoof prints, or almost like hoof prints, you know what I mean? Like not exactly. So there were a couple of like reports of that too, and maybe that was another thing that they had kind of like covered up or like sort of like swept and then pretended that it didn't happen. But yeah, so that was another thing that was kind of swirling around, like rumors about it. looked like they were on the same side of the craft where Lonnie Zamora said that he had seen the two people. And like I said, I don't know how close. I don't think he got all that close, because what happened was he saw the two people like from far away. And then when he got close to the craft, he said that he heard like a thumping sound, which he said kind of sounded like a car door closing. So you're led to assume that the two people that he didn't see anymore like got into the craft and like shut the door. You know what I mean? Like he was assuming that's what the noise was. But so he didn't get that good a look at him, but he didn't say that they looked like aliens or nothing like that. He just said they looked like people, but they were small. But the thing about it was that some people said that they did see like footprints, but they looked more like hooves, essentially. So they were Satan aliens, I guess.
Hooves.
Hooves. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and actually, like, Alan Hynek, the guy from the Blue Book investigation thing, he actually, like, alluded to the tracks also, even though I kind of feel like they wanted to kind of hush that shit up later on as well. But that was something that they were kind of looking into. I don't know if they were actually there, but that was something that some people brought up. Now, the thing about it, too, is that he mentioned later, the Hynek guy, the Blue Book guy, he mentioned later that when Lonnie Zamora drew sketches of the symbol that he saw, he said it looked like a cattle brand. That's what it reminded him of.
A what?
A cattle brand.
What?
The symbol.
outside? Okay.
Yeah. So, basically, so after the story kind of started to get some public traction, a lot of different theories about what this was, you know, as usual, started to kind of like come to the fore. Now, one astronomer from Harvard, he's basically saying, and this was the tack that Skeptical Inquirer took as well, because they did like a long article about this, which is online if you want to read it. They were of the opinion that Lonnie Zamora had actually been the target of a hoax by students from the close by, like the what is it called, like New Mexico Tech or whatever it was. Yeah, New Mexico Tech, like the college that was nearby. Apparently, I don't know if this is true or not, but I did like read on a couple of sources that Lonnie Zamora used to work on that campus, and some of the students didn't like him, and so some people have posited that they decided they were going to pull a prank on him. Although I was like, well, how would they know that he was going to be in that particular location that day? I'm not really sure like how that worked, but you know what I mean? Thank you, Bryce. Just tuned in, fascinated with UFOs, though I'm usually skeptical. Great show. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's really, really awesome of you. And yeah, so, but there was kind of like a couple of, letters or emails that were exchanged between people that worked at the school, like later on, that suggested that it might have been like a hoax. There was the president of New Mexico Tech at the time, whose name was Sterling Colgate. He actually said that he thought that students had done it, and that the craft was actually a candle in a balloon. That's what he said.
No.
Now, it is noted, though, that one of the first things that Zamora said, at first he did say that it kind of looked like a balloon. But the thing about it was that the day was really, really windy, and the way that he described it moving didn't really seem like the way that a balloon would move, like on a really, really windy day. Just saying. You also have another skeptic named Stuart Campbell, who said that what Lonnie Zamora saw was probably a mirage from the star Canopus.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, that seems a little out there.
Canopus.
Also, you
the
got
guys
a couple people saying that he saw ball lightning, which, you know, I don't know. Ball lightning is weird, but I don't know. He seems to have seen it from pretty close, and he seemed to have given a good description of it. And like I said, I don't necessarily think it's extraterrestrial. I think that his assessment was correct. I think that he saw like an experimental craft that was military or scientific or something like that, and they didn't want him to see it, so they told him to shut the fuck up about it. Basically, I think that's what happened. Also, like the same person that said that maybe it was ball lightning, Then he came out later and said, oh, well, maybe Lonnie Zamora, like, pulled this hoax himself in order to attract tourism to the area, which I'm like, well, if that was what he wanted to do, it didn't fucking work, because everybody knows about Roswell, but nobody talks about going to Socorro for UFO tourism. I don't think, unless they're, like, really hardcore, you know?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I was like, that seems like a stretch. You know what I mean? It seems like, I'm not saying it's impossible. People do weird shit all the time, but
It wasn't just him that saw it.
That's what I mean. It does. It
And
does.
there
kind
was
of,
evidence behind. He didn't go out there and scorch the damn ground and make damn near glass out of the fucking.
That's what I was
saying. It was a rocket
saying.
landing zone.
It's
yeah.
like it's. I mean,
Yeah.
whether if it was a hoax, I don't think it was him that was perpetrated. It was somebody else doing it. I don't think it was a hoax perpetrated by somebody else because, like I said, if it was a hoax perpetrated, I mean, I could see if it was a hoax, you know, just in general. You know, and whoever happened to see it, you know, gold. But I don't think it was a hoax perpetrated against him specifically because, like I said, how would you know that he was going to be there? He was only on that stretch of road because he was chasing a speeder that particular day.
New Mexico's a great place for testing experimental aircraft and test vehicles. That particular layout, something kind of like a lunar lander, was real dangerous. Dudes got killed trying to land those things. They were doing it manually, you know, like you would try to fly a helicopter before computers. It was real easy for it to tip over on landing or takeoff and then to try to fly it in an area. But they were messing with those things. This is confirmed. Messing with those things, trying to practice to get an idea of what it was going to be like to land on the moon. It stands to reason that that's real closely linked up with a lot of vertical landing and takeoff fighter concepts that went back all the way back to the 40s with the Germans. So you know your big contractors are going to be working on that kind of stuff. Now, we know that that's a fucking unstable fucking design, especially with the technology they had back then. Now you can do what Musk is doing, land a damn rocket on a fucking barge out at sea, at rough seas. You know what I mean? That they could only dream of shit like that. You got to have really good computers to do that. This was some contractor took this test vehicle out somewhere and they lost control over it and it ended up leaving the damn test facility. You know, they were fucking difficult to fly, so they ended up being spotted by civilians. That's the most plausible thing.
Yeah, I think like probably I think the most plausible is that because I've heard that it was actually like an experimental lunar lander.
Could be.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And yeah, they could have been testing it and they fucked up and it's like they were somewhere they weren't supposed to be.
Well, it's easy for that shit to fucking
Right.
get out of hand because the danger is it flipping over. As soon as it gets beyond a certain axis like that, you're fucked. It's gonna, you know what
Pretty much.
There's no
yeah.
there's no lifting surfaces on it. It's pure thrust. So there's no wing, there's no rotor, and it's not being held from above. It's being pushed up from the bottom. It's like riding a pogo stick. You know, it'd be real easy for something like that to get out from underneath you, and then you're fucking 10 miles away from where you should be, and you've left the range.
And then you gotta land, and you're
Then you
like,
gotta
man,
land,
then you
try to
gotta
figure
get
out
out
what-
for a second and
and
get your
check-
fucking
and go,
bearings
what the
and
fuck is
figure
this
out
all
what the
about?
fuck is going on.
There might have been something wrong with it.
Yeah, that's why, you know,
Right.
maybe that's why he saw the two dudes. Because, like I said, he didn't say that the dudes, like, looked weird. He just said they looked short.
Yeah, and they
Which
saw
that's
somebody
not that
coming, and I go,
strange.
we got to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
They can't
shit,
see this
They're
thing.
not supposed to see this.
Yeah.
This is experimental.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta run to the bathroom.
So that's most likely what I think it was.
I kind of think that's probably what it was.
Yeah, and it would be easy for something like that to get out, to get out of hand, and you fucking end up 10, 20 miles away doing little hops. And each little hop, you're going deeper outside the range, trying to figure out how this thing how to fly this thing. Now, you would think, but how much fuel could something like that carry? The ME-163 Comet really didn't carry that much fuel, and you were able to launch it from the ground and be way up, fucking at high altitude inside a bomber stream just in a few minutes. And you only had a few minutes of flight time up there, and then you cut the power to the engines. Some of them actually, the engines would fucking, you could release it and they fall out the back and go to the ground on a parachute on some designs. But then you just flew it around as a glider. But it was going hundreds of miles an hour, so it could coast at a high speed for a long time, faster than a propeller plane. I'm trying to think of how fast that thing was. I think they were close to 600 miles an hour, if I remember correctly. And it was just kind of a boomerang-shaped little airplane, small. So, yeah, it's going 600 miles an hour, and it's not really slowing down that quickly. And you could cut loops with it and pick up speed during dives. So, but, you know, something like this, like a lander-type configuration, they weren't flying high. They said it was, what, 30 feet over the ground.
Not even. He said it was more like 10 to 15 feet. Because he said there was like a dynamite shack, and he said it was like only like 3 feet over the roof.
So they're not burning fuel to gain altitude. They're staying low to the ground. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that thing could go 30 miles, maybe. Especially if it was hopping, you know. They were having problems with it, and they were only a few feet off the ground, and they'd land it. They were probably afraid of it. You know, you get up high.
Yeah, I would be.
Easier to fuck up and kill yourself.
Yeah.
And hypergolic rockets, it's just, you're just mixing two chemicals, two fluids together, and they explode without any ignition system. No ignition source, so you don't need a spark plug or any jet of flame or anything. You just mix those two things together and boom, explode. One of them is pure hydrogen peroxide. I forgot what the other one was. I think it might have been nitric acid or some bullshit like that. They were very caustic. If you got any of that on you, it reduced you to pink foam. All right, it just ate right through you.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. One of them was extremely base, and the other one was extremely acid. And when they fucking met each other, they just exploded in fucking flame. But it had a real good power to weight ratio. So if you're piloting something like this, the last thing you'd ever want to do is to crash it. Because if you rupture those fuel tanks,
that would be bad.
you rupture those fuel tanks and the thing will just blow up like a bomb.
Yeah.
Okay. And usually it consumes one fuel faster than the other. So you end up with just some hydrogen peroxide left, that's what happened in the Comet a lot. And on landing, if they landed hard because it didn't have landing gear on it, it just had a skid, and they'd landed out in field because it was a glider, basically. It was a rocket-powered glider once the fucking fuel was burned up. Well, they'd landed on the skid, and usually like something like a wingtip would touch down on the ground, and it's tumble, and they'd rupture the fuel tanks, and the guy'd get covered in hydrogen peroxide, pure hydrogen peroxide. And they had them in rubber suits, like a space suit with a big square glass plate on them, on the face. But the rubber suit got ripped up in all that fucking twisted aluminum. By the time the ground crew usually got to them, they were nothing but just a rubber suit filled with a skeleton and pink foam. That's
Brody.
Yeah, just eat you
Hate
up.
to have to like fucking.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we'll just pick it up in the bag and just put it in the grave.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Just eat you up.
So gross.
Yeah.
It's like
The Germans
he
had
looks
balls,
like a
man.
smoothie.
The Germans had fucking balls. Okay. You guys can look for it as the ME-163 Comet with a K. Fucking rocket fighter, rocket interceptor. It's like a football. Look like a damn football, like an American football with fucking swept-back wings on it and a little fucking tail. It just had a stabilizer. It didn't have any lifting, like aileron type things on the tail. Just looked like a little fat shark. And it was
a little fat shark.
That's what it looked like. And it wasn't very big. And, it was little fat shark with a man in it. You were fucking crazy if you got that thing, man.
I'm telling you now, every time until I die, like if I go to 7-Eleven and get like a cherry Slurpee, I'm gonna think of that story.
The pink foam in the rubber suit. The skeleton and the
I
suit
think I could
with
be
bunch of
drinking
pink
a
foam.
little German man.
Yeah.
Like, it was testing some experimental
Yeah.
spacecraft.
There was a whole series of those. We were making something like that. It's called the Flying Ram. It was just like looked like a boomerang. You laid down in it, and it had a little armored glass window, and it had a sharp leading edge on the wing, and it had a couple little stabilizers, and it was a gyrojet rocket, which they never really figured out how to do. It was kind of like the German hypergolic rocket, but I think there was rotojet is what they called it. There was some kind of compressor blades in it, probably to get it to feed fuel faster so you could get more power. But evidently they didn't work to it. It kept blowing up. So then they put jet engines in it, and the idea was just to ram a bomber and survive it, because it was kind of like because it didn't have guided missiles. It didn't. I don't even think it carried weapons. It just had an armored leading edge, and it was real narrow, and you laid down in it, and you flew it right through the tail of a bomber, or right through the fuselage, and cut right through it. And you could do it multiple times. But guided missiles got rid of all that shit. It's 50s and 60s stuff.
Danny Rowling said, "Did this guy get a good look at the faces of the aliens?" I don't
Too
think
far.
so. I think because he saw the figures like far away,
Yeah.
like they were standing around the thing. But by the time he got close to it, it seemed like they had got back into it and taken off again. But like I said, he didn't seem to think that they looked weird, just small.
His son told us that that his dad didn't think they were aliens. Because I knew his son. His son was my squad leader.
Yeah, that's what Danny Rowling asked. It's like, Tom, what did this guy's son tell you about his father?
He was just a cop, and that he was real patriotic, and that he didn't think it was an alien craft. He thought it was a test craft, but they made him say things to lead the public into believing.
It is just like thinking he was crazy,
and that
or
he
a
was crazy,
crackpot
and
or something.
Yeah, it was a misinformation campaign.
Because it was some shit they didn't want anybody to know about.
They didn't want you
imagining.
asking questions about it. So they just
Right.
wanted to cloud it up with a bunch of stuff to get the public put the public in a tailspin to not believe it, basically.
Well, and like I said, the poor guy, I don't think his life was ruined necessarily, but he
They
did
paid
get
him.
made fun of a lot.
They
And
compensated
it kind of like bummed him out. You know
They-
what I mean?
They compensated him. They paid him for his time.
I mean, they better have.
According
like
to
I said.
Now, I don't know how much they paid him, but he didn't say. But
That's the well.
He
The
said
thing
they paid
about
him.
it, it's like if I saw a UFO, I don't think I'd tell anybody shit.
he was
I know how that goes.
Zamora's dad, who's the cop they're talking about, Lonnie Zamora, and I believe my squad leader's name. I believe his first name was Lonnie also, which would have made him the third. He said that his dad was real patriotic, okay, and that he did his duty. If they told him to do this, he would have done it. Yeah, national defense stuff.
Well, and
Yeah.
people were kind of more like that back then.
Yeah.
Like if they said, "Well, you have to do this and that," everybody'd be like, "Well, yes, sir." Nowadays, it'd be like, "No, we're not doing that."
He never says it's alien, even in his.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't say it. He never. Says
I don't.
it's
As far as I'm aware, like I said, I didn't really read
Hmm.
like the whole transcript, but as far as I know, he never said that he thought that it was aliens.
He told my squad leader that he thought it was a test aircraft, a test craft. That's what I believe it was.
Yeah. I mean, he was weirded out at first because
Yeah.
it's like he didn't know what it was. Like, it was weird looking.
They're not describing alien technology. It launches, it gives a lot of smoke behind it. A booming fucking sound. That's a fucking rocket. Rockets are fucking
Because most of the time,
loud.
I kind of feel like most of the time when people report like UFOs, it's usually like, oh my God, it was so quiet. And that was like really, really weird. But this one, like very specifically, was not quiet. He said he heard a roaring noise.
Right. Which that describes the ME-163 Comet, the hypergolic rocket, perfectly. It just said it was just amazingly loud. And it's not big, you know. So just screaming fucking loud. The fucking temperature of that combustion is fucking high. And it's almost damn near external combustion. The engine in the thing was only about that big. It was just a block of cast iron with a fucking cone in it and two fucking holes where there were valves. So the two things could, just a combustion chamber. And then the little nozzle wasn't very big, you know what I mean, that drove that aircraft. And it was like damn near breaking the sound barrier. Almost. You know. Probably could break the sound barrier in a dive. It's just that that's not how they were using it. In a powered dive, you could probably easily break sound barrier in a comet. I don't think it would hold together. Because breaking the sound barrier does a lot of fucking fucked up things to aerodynamics. You got to be shaped just right. If not, it starts to wobble and fucking tumble. You know, which it probably would have done that, but you would have broke the sound barrier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they say the fucking P-38 Lightning was breaking the sound barrier in a dive, and that was a propeller plane. And a lot of times it wouldn't come out of a fucking dive because you'd lose control over
You'd
it.
hit the earth.
Yeah. They solved that, though. They put special flaps on it so it would right itself in that dive. Compressibility is what it's called. But some people reported a sonic boom of a P-38 in a dive. Hard to believe, but maybe. Maybe at certain altitudes, maybe. Low altitude, maybe. Because the atmosphere is
I guess
thicker.
it's not impossible. I mean, you know.
Be surprised that airframe would hold together. But,
That's what I'm saying.
It's
like
close.
it seems unlikely,
Yeah.
but you know, weirder things have happened,
Right.
I guess. So here's something kind of interesting. While I was looking into the Zamora case, there was another reported UFO case that happened on the exact same day. That I kind of wanted to like bring up because I actually never heard of this before, and I don't know if you have either. So it happened the same day, but it was like across the country. So even though the one in Socorro, New Mexico is considered like one of the best documented and one of the most credible sightings, and like I said, nobody's saying that it's necessarily alien technology. They're just saying that, you know, obviously something was there and a lot of people saw it and there's a lot of corroborating evidence and stuff like that. However, this other case that happened, it's happened in New York, actually, in Newark Valley, which, is that upstate New York? I'm not entirely sure. But there was this guy named Gary Wilcox. They call this the fertilizer case for reasons which will become clear as we go along. But this happened on the exact same day, April 24th, 1964. And it's weird because because the Lonnie Zamora sighting, it happened like late in the day, and I don't think that the story went national in time for this guy to have read about it and said, oh, I'm going to do the same shit. But then some of the stuff he said is batshit crazy, but some of the stuff he said too was like similar to what Lonnie Zamora said, which I thought was like really, really weird. Because I don't think there's any way that he could have like read about the Zamora case like beforehand, because it happened the same day. So basically, this Gary Wilcox guy, he said that he saw the same kind of thing, like an egg-shaped craft. He didn't say that he saw like a symbol on the side or anything. He didn't remember that. But he did see like an egg-shaped craft, similar kind of size and color and everything. And he said that he saw it landing, and that shortly afterward, like two little dudes, like they were about 4 feet tall, like approached him. And he said, I had to include this because it's like kind of funny. He said that each of them had they were carrying like a tray, like it was like a square tray, like in their hands like that. And then he said like on the tray were all of these like soil samples and like roots and leaves and shit. He said they had white metallic suits on, like flight suits, which is the same thing that Lonnie Zamora reported.
Yeah, I'm smelling a rat.
I'm just saying, this is funny.
Okay, good.
Now, then he said one of the little dudes, he didn't say they looked like aliens or nothing. He just said they looked like little, like shore people, pretty much. He said that one of the dudes came up to him and said, "Don't be alarmed. We've spoken to people before." And I was like, okay. And then he said, I could understand what they were saying, but I couldn't tell if they were speaking English or not. And he said that their voices sounded like really, really weird, like no voices that he could ever describe. And then he said that they started asking him all these questions because he was a farmer. So they started like asking him all these questions about like farming and stuff. Like what is it that you're doing right now? Like what is a tractor? Like what is manure? Like all this other kind of stuff. And said that they were really interested in like organic substances.
Yeah.
He said he stood there talking to them for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And they were asking him like all these really mostly about farming and like how that was all going. And
like
they
aliens don't know how to farm.
And they said, and he said that they had like they were really interested in fertilizer.
Yeah.
So
Horse shit.
So yeah, maybe. Thank you, Bryce. Banned from doing super chats for ages. This is to make up for that. Oh, thank you. I wonder why you were banned from doing super chats. We didn't do that.
We didn't do it.
We didn't do it. I can't do anything from here. But yeah, so suddenly he talks to them for 2 hours about various farming techniques or whatever, and then. The two guys were like, yeah, I gotta go. You know what I mean? So he was like, hey, like, do you want a bag of fertilizer to take with you? Like, do you want to study it or something like that? And they were like, no, we don't have time to, like, hang around for that bullshit. So then they get back in the egg craft, and it goes up in the... And he described it, like I said, the same way as Lonnie Zamora described it. Like, the same kind of roaring motor noise. He said it sounded like an idling car engine kind of, but it's like I said, he said it looked like an egg, and then it was like kind of gliding or like hovering a little and then like took off into the distance like really fast. Now he said that he went back and like left a bag of fertilizer like kind of by the tree like where the craft was, but then like when he went back there later on, the fertilizer was gone. Like they came back and took it and like took it back to their planet or whatever. Now he actually reported this to the NYPD. Like, or it's, I guess, the New York police or wherever he was, like the police department where he lived. And he had like a bunch of UFO researchers and shit like that, like come and newspaper people like come and talk to him. And he seemed like super serious about it. Now, he never did try to like make money off it or nothing like that. And he's like, yeah, if it happened again, I would still like report it to you guys. But he didn't, like I said, he didn't really seem to try to become famous about it or anything. But I just thought it was really weird because it happened the exact same day as the Lonnie Zamora thing, and it still had the egg-shaped craft and like the noise. He
said it happened on that
and
day.
all this stuff. Yeah, well,
Did he report
he reported it
okay.
to the police.
Okay,
so I just thought that
suspicious.
was really, really weird. And like saying, "Oh, the little people in the white suits and everything." I said that sounds exactly the same.
And he was just a farmer.
Yeah, he was just a farmer.
Okay,
but I just thought that was like super, super strange.
Not really. No, it's not really strange at all. What it is, how much you want to bet? Somebody from the FBI came forward and says, look, we want you to tell this story and we're going to give you $10,000.
Maybe so, yeah.
That's just to throw up a lot more chaff.
Maybe it was
to discredit the other story that they knew was coming because they
because this one is like way sillier.
Way sillier, see?
Like with him talking to the
Yeah.
guys about like manure and whatnot.
So and then he goes, well, I don't want to lie, and it's well, here's the 10,000, and you're helping your government. You're helping
okay.
He's
I'll
like,
say whatever you
this
want.
Is your this is your patriotic duty, and you're going to get paid. We have to keep, we have to discredit this other thing over here that happened. That's probably what that was.
It might have been, but that was pretty quick acting because, like I
Yeah.
said, it did happen like on the same day.
They got guys that know how to do that. That's their
I
job.
guess so, and it was like across the country too. So it's like I thought that was like super funny. I don't know, just like that whole. I'm just imagining the whole kind of like situation where like two little alien dudes like coming down like asking about. Hey, you want a bag of fertilizer? You can have a bag of fertilizer. No, it's okay. We don't have time for that right now. We'll stop at Dollar General and get some fertilizer. They don't have fertilizer at Dollar General, I don't think. But other than they got feed stores around here though. You could probably get fertilizer there. But I just thought that was like super funny. But yeah, that probably is now that I think about it, because I mean Lonnie Zamora, like he saw this stuff, like I said, on April 24th, and it was like the evening. It was like 6 p.m., like somewhere around there. 5:45, 6 p.m. And so, what? Okay. Yeah, Pookie's talking. She's like yelling about something and tearing up the thing over there. But I didn't, like I said, they had to have worked fast because, I mean, by the time he reported it, like the military didn't really get there until the next day. But like if he did kind of report it to the authorities, like maybe, and like I said, White Sands is right there, so maybe they kind of figured it out and they said, hey, send somebody out like somewhere, it doesn't matter where, and make up like a weird story that's like kind of similar to that. It's possible, I guess. Because, like I said, it is interesting the way during the interviews, like Zamora did say, you know, I thought it was an experimental aircraft, and they're kind of trying to steer him away from that. I don't think they ever explicitly came out and said, hey, we want you to say it's aliens, but they did seem to be kind of trying to discredit him saying that it was an experimental aircraft, which would make sense if it was something that they didn't want getting out. So it's just kind of like, well, we'll just make it as ridiculous as possible. And like I said, his story wasn't really that ridiculous, but the one with the fertilizer people, that's pretty ridiculous. I just thought that was funny, and I'd never heard of that story before. And it's like, when I was researching this, I was like, the fertilizer case, Gary Woolguy's like, I never heard of that. So I looked into it, and I'm like, okay.
How far away was that?
It was across the country. It was in New York, like, whereas the Lonnie Zamora case was New Mexico. So it was like thousands of miles away.
It could be sheer luck, but that sounds like something that the FBI would do. See, it traveled all this way. That way, if they got any more resistance, they could pull that out. You know what I mean? They go, oh, you believe that? You know what I mean? This is a UFO because look, way over here, this guy saw the same thing. You know. They talked about farming and everything.
Little people with trays full of roots and soil samples.
So you're trying to make the case look as ridiculous as possible, and to kick up a bunch of UFO freaks to talk about it, which it fucking it puts the case into disrepute. You know what I mean? Fucking makes it seem ridiculous.
Because another thing he said, too, is, like, where the craft landed, the guy that had the farm. Yeah. He said that where the craft landed, same as, you know, the New Mexico case, that that the ground where it had parked was, like, radioactive and nothing would grow on it for, like, a really long time after.
Was there a burn spot, though?
A little bit of a burn spot, yeah. Okay. It was, like, kind of a circular patch where it was, like, burned and, like, radioactive, yeah. That's apparently,
Well, you know, in the 60s, a lot of these people came out of the 50s, of course, you know, people of this age, and their concept of any kind of spacecraft landed on its tail. It was a rocket, some kind of nuclear rocket. Because that's what sci-fi movies had. If you notice sci-fi movies, all the rockets land on their tails. They were trying to do that, but they couldn't do that. You can do it now.
Yeah.
But couldn't do that back then.
No, like I said, that's why it was very sci-fi-y back then.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, that's a high-tech rocket.
It's like, ooh, look at that. It's alien technology. James Knapp said, could be they were doing tests on the same day on both sides of the country, and the test pilots were found by the farmer, and they acted dumb to get the farmer to go away.
I don't know.
Maybe that would be, like, super funny, too.
Unlikely.
That's even funnier than if they were aliens.
Yeah.
It's like, let's pretend to be aliens. Come on, this will be, like, fucking... That sounds like some shit I would do.
New York, that entire state is not a good place to test secret aircraft. That's why they do it out in the desert.
Yeah, not so many people.
They don't do that. Yeah.
But, you know...
Government or the government contractors have a lot of land out there. It's just barren, fucking.
Well, yeah, that's why I think it's emblematic why like so many UFO sightings happen like in desert locations. Yeah. It's always because that's where they're testing shit.
Yeah,
I don't think it's because that's why like aliens come here because to check out that we're testing shit. I think that you're seeing shit that they're testing. Most of the time,
they got test ranges out there for aircraft in the air where an aircraft can fucking hit Mach 3 and go in a straight line. It would damn near, the range is bigger than a European country, you know, which that's a trip, but you know, the fucking, those desert states are big. They're big.
Yeah, I've been to New Mexico, actually. It's beautiful out there. Desert's not really my thing, but I mean the landscape out there is amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty.
It is very pretty. I went to I was in Santa Fe. Like Santa Fe was like really pretty.
So
like
really,
all the land around there is really pretty.
The United States.
I've been to Colorado too, but
it's kind of blessed geographically because it has such a wide variety of places of terrain, and those deserts came in handy, man, for nuclear testing and testing aircraft and everything. We were setting off atomic bombs out there. Then they ended up moving them to like the Bikini Atoll. Did a bunch of them out there, but they set off atomic bombs right there on the fucking surface of the desert.
Yeah,
All
well,
the
like
time.
I said, there's nobody around. You know what I mean? Like, for miles and miles.
Yeah.
Well, shit, like I said, even nowadays, as many people live in the U.S., you can drive through Texas, Arizona, shit like that. You can drive, like, on fucking highways, and there's, like, nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing out there. You know what I mean? It's just, like, fucking flat land as far as you can see.
They had that Davy Crockett atomic recoilless rifle. It was like something out of damn Fallout. Videos of them firing that thing off out in the desert. People watching it. And then they did tests like they'd fucking set off an atomic bomb and then have guys, army guys, run into fucking ground zero after the detonation to prove that radiation wasn't a problem.
Yeah, how'd that work out?
A lot of those dudes died
Yeah.
of cancer
I was going to say.
in their 60s.
It's not dangerous. Oh,
Yeah.
no. Oh,
Yeah, it took a long time to
get.
get to them, though. You know, really what it was is my understanding is that they knew that there was a danger. They didn't know how dangerous it was, so they were going to fucking find out. They were going to run those dudes in there and see how long they lived. You know, they did that kind of shit all the time. I think most of them lived
Life was
into
cheap back then.
Yeah. Well, life expectancy in World War II wasn't very fucking high for a soldier, you know, especially if you were on the losing side. The Germans pretty much just were annihilated. Anybody who was fighting in a German army, the chances of you coming home alive were fucking slim. And a lot of fucking Russians died, millions of them.
Yeah.
So this whole idea of fucking, well, radiation you might not live until your 60s, and they're like, oh shit, that's a whole lifespan. You know?
Yeah, it's like, that's years away. Who cares?
Yeah, they were like, oh, dying at 60, that's when you're supposed to die. They kind of thought that way.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like once you get to our age, and you're like, oh shit, man.
Yeah, it's
like,
around the corner.
I'm only 10 years old.
But they didn't live, you know, people lived to old age, but not as many
Right.
back then.
Yeah, it wasn't like the expectation. I think most
Yeah.
people nowadays like expect that they're gonna live.
But to be like 100. Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe not 100, but are gonna live like longer than, like they don't think they're gonna drop dead at fucking 55 or 60.
You're lucky to
you
make
know
it to
what I mean?
70 or 80, 75.
But I mean, shit. I mean, like I said, we know. Well, actually, shit. Our friend Will, we saw him on Friday, and he just turned 60.
Just turned 60.
You would never,
No.
ever know looking at him that he was 60 years old. Ever.
No, he's on the juice, though. It's helping him. He's like, oh, man, I feel good.
I had totally forgotten that I knew he was older than me, but I
Yeah.
didn't really think about it. And then,
Yeah.
like, Friday, it was his birthday, and I was like, oh, shit, that's right. You turned 60 today, didn't you?
He's looking younger. You
yeah,
notice that?
that's what I mean. He looks good. You would never know if you had a
Yeah, he's
million
looking
years that
younger.
he was 60 years old. Never in a
Test.
million years.
Testosterone, man. Works.
It's just funny that
Yeah.
a 60-year-old back... Well, shit, man. Even
60-year-old's an old man.
even people... Well, even you watch movies from the
Yeah.
50s or something like that. Even
Yeah.
people in there that were like 35 looked old as shit.
Yep.
I don't know what it was,
Yeah.
but... Not everybody. Like, not everybody looked old, but a lot of people did.
Will looks like he's in his 40s, late 40s. Like
Maybe.
a good late 40s.
Right. But shit, I was watching, like I said, I was watching one of those MST 3K shorts, and there was a girl in there, well, a woman in there, that was supposed to be a college student, but she was, like, obviously much older than college. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, that woman looks like she's like 50 years old, and they're trying to pass her off as a college student. So I got curious to see how old she really was, like the actress, and she was 38. And I was like, I was like, ooh, that's a rough 38 though. I would have thought that she was at least 50, like looking at her. I just thought, I mean, it was so obvious that she was like older, and they were trying to pass her off as like a college student. Like the other actress that they had in there that was also playing a college student that was supposed to be the same age looked more like a college student. Like she looked like she could conceivably be in her 20s, but this other woman was clearly much, much older. But I thought she was at least 10 to 15 years older than she actually was. So I don't know why they thought they could pull the wool over anybody's eyes, but you know what I mean. It's just kind of like The Blob. They wanted us to believe that Steve McQueen was a fucking high school student in that movie when he looked like he was about 40 years old. He wasn't 40 at the time, but he looked like he was 40. Not in a bad way. It's just like they looked older, you know? And I saw a video the other day that was explaining like some reasons for maybe why that was, but not necessarily just because, I mean, one of the factors was that maybe like the health wasn't as good, or stuff like that. But, there were other reasons as well, having to do with, like, how they dressed and all this other kind of stuff. Hugo said, I think people looked older back then because life was harder. Also, they got married and had kids way younger. Yeah, I kind of feel like that might have been a factor as well. Because you were just kind of expected to sort of, like, start a family either right out of high school or right out of college. So either 18 or 22, and then start pumping kids out. And, having kids ages you. Usually, not always, but a lot of times it does. You know what I mean? Which is maybe one reason why I don't look old as shit, because I never had any. That might be why. I just have a fur babies, and they're less stressful.
Yeah, stress to get you in fucking career.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, I wanted to kind of bring up too, like, other than the Gary Wilcox, the fertilizer aliens. Apparently, when I was looking at this case too, they said that there were a lot of other UFO sightings around this same time period. And kind of in the same general area, not necessarily New Mexico, but like out in the desert at least. Like 10th of April, which was like 2 weeks beforehand, they got, I guess, like NORAD in, I guess that's Merced, California. They picked up between half a dozen and a dozen anomalous objects, like up in the sky, and they got them on radar and everything like that. They said they were flying between 60,000 and 90,000 feet. They actually, like, sent some jets out to check it out, but didn't see anything, but they did, like, pick them up on radar. And then about a week after that, like, I think on April 17th, there were, like, the radar picked up, like, 2 weird objects at Fallon Air Base in Nevada, and they were kind of flying, like, one on top of the other, like stack formation. And people saw them for about an hour, and then they disappeared. 2 days after the Zamora incident in Las Vegas, some people saw, like, 12 very bright silver objects moving through the sky toward the south. And they moved one way, like, for 30 seconds, and then changed course all at the same time, and then started going back north again, like they turned around. And then on the 28th of April, which was 4 days after the Zamora incident, well, also in New Mexico, this was in Albuquerque, there were a couple of kids who reported seeing an egg-shaped object, like, hovering in the sky over their elementary school. And one of them said that the object kind of bounced up and down in the sky and then, like, took off. And also that same little girl actually, apparently, allegedly, reportedly, went and had to have medical attention for burns on her face. So there were kind of, like, weird things going on. But like I said, I kind of feel like that area of the desert, there's so many testing ranges, there's so many military bases, there's so many everything. That's kind of why there's so many UFO sightings out there. I kind of feel like most of it's because of that, Yeah. So what did they do? So in Socorro, New Mexico, a couple years after the incident, I guess because it was really famous at the time. So the guy who was the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Socorro at the time, he said he wanted to pull a Roswell, which I don't even think, like, the Roswell shit had been, like, really developed to the extent that it is today, like, in this year. So maybe this was a little bit ahead of its time. I'm not really sure. But he was like, yeah, we're going to do it like a tourist site, like Socorro. So all the UFOlogists will come here, and, like, we'll have fucking gift shops and shit like that. So they're gonna, they actually did a little bit, like, they built, like, some stone walkways, they built, like, little benches and stuff, like, where the landing site was and whatnot. Although they fucked it up, I think they put, like, the site where all the tourists were supposed to come was, like, a quarter mile away from where the actual landing site was, so they kind of messed that up. And, it never really turned into, like, a tourist site like they were hoping. And then basically what they've done now is much like they did in Roswell. They actually had a couple of artists in 2012 that did this, like, big mural, like, kind of commemorating it or whatever. And apparently poor Lonnie Zamora, according to Wikipedia, said he became so tired of the subject that he eventually avoided both ufologists and the Air Force. and took a job managing a gas station.
Okay, yeah.
Because he was like, fuck this
Yeah,
shit
fuck all that
forever.
bullshit, yeah.
Which, like I said, I get it. Like, that's your one claim to fame in life. It's like you can't do anything without everybody and their mother, like, asking you about that shit, and it probably gets really old. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, well, you know, it's just kind of like the same thing. It's like, I'm sure that,
Asking
like...
him the same thing over and over again.
Right.
Just listen to my damn videotape.
Yeah, it's like, read my book. Just go
Yeah.
away. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's like, I'm tired of, like, repeating myself all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, he died on in 2009. He had a heart attack. He was 76 years old. So, yeah, he got real sick of that alien shit at the end. So he's probably like I said, I kind of feel like if I saw a UFO, I do not, even if I thought it was alien technology, I'm pretty sure I would not report that. That can only end in tears, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I saw that poltergeist. We didn't say anything about it at the time. Other than people who are
I
real
mean,
close
would
to us.
you, like, if you saw a UFO and you really legitimately thought that it was a
Yeah.
UFO and maybe not like an experimental aircraft or
think
whatever?
you would think
I
that-
wouldn't report that shit. Fuck that.
You would think a UFO would be more credible, more believable than something, let's say, like poltergeist phenomenon or out-of-body experiences and stuff. You know what I mean? You think, oh yeah, alien creatures, the big universe. It's hard to believe people wouldn't believe that. But in this particular case, they're just not describing a UFO. They're not describing an alien craft. The intelligence agencies are making it sound like a hokey alien craft sighting. They're trying to discredit it because they don't want people talking about it. They want UFO freaks to talk about it, basically.
Yeah, because
That's
they
what they
know
want.
that everybody will be like,
Yeah,
everybody just thinks they're
Yeah,
weirdos and shit
yeah.
like that. But like
had
I said, I
antennas.
kind of feel like, I mean, it's a UFO in the sense that, he didn't know what it was, so it was identified. But like I said, even he didn't think it was alien spacecraft. And I don't really think it's aliens, but it was weird for sure. Like, it scared him, whatever it was. Like, looked like nothing he was used to, so it freaked him out. But I don't think he thought it was alien technology or anything.
His son said that his dad believed it was a test craft.
Yeah.
He didn't think it was an alien craft, even when it happened. He reported it because he thought that's what you were supposed to do.
Little did he know. Well, like I said, it was
well, he-
1964. It was
Yeah, he reported it to his department,
Right.
and then it got out of hand.
Well, the thing is, it's like, I mean, he didn't really mean to because, like I said, he
Yeah.
was a cop.
Right,
so it
yeah.
was kind of like his job. He saw something and he's
he
like, oh
reported it
shit,
to his-
he thought it was a plane crash or some shit like that. I'm going to go check that out. So
out-
he's like checking into the radio and then he's reporting back. So yeah, it kind of got out of his
Yeah, and
control.
then it turned out it was a research craft. Well, shit.
Like
it's a secret project. Government's got to do something. They got to come in here and confuse the case and cloud the issues and put a misinformation campaign out there, and that's what they did. That's what they did.
The Desolate one said, Tom, if you've seen a UFO, would you bolt or go investigate?
Oh man, I go investigate.
Yeah,
We've been
he
waiting to see
definitely
one.
would. Well, sometimes we'll be driving home from the club at night and he'll be
Yeah.
like, I really wish I could see a UFO right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. You see,
he
I
thinks
wanna-
about it all the time.
Yeah, I want to see one of those gigantic fucking triangles.
He wants to see one of the big black triangles.
like something out of damn the Phoenix Lights.
He used to like to lay in the bed and like look out at our old house and like
Yeah.
look out the sliding glass
Yeah.
windows like into the backyard so he could look up in the sky and
You're
see
right,
if
so I
there
can
was
see it now.
aliens.
Right.
He kept waiting.
Yeah.
He still hasn't seen one. You
No.
got a while still. You could
Yeah,
still see
yeah.
one. You could still see one.
That
I keep
whole-
hoping that you'll see one.
That
one
whole
of these
Phoenix
days.
Lights thing was fucking amazing too. Everybody who saw it fucking said that no, that was an alien craft. And
Yeah,
you're not
we
talking
did a
about the
show about
flares.
that.
I'm not
We-
talking about the flares. That is flares that they keep showing. There's only one video of the actual craft, and it's real grainy and fuzzy. It doesn't look good on camera. You'll see like 5 lights in a V from a distance. It's somebody with an old-fashioned VHS recorders trying to zoom in on it, and it doesn't really show. It doesn't show any context, but people say that that's it. But there's nothing in the video showing where the ground is, and so it's hard to say.
You can't really see like
can't
how
really
big
see.
it is or yeah.
But too many people called 911, and it went across the state. So several cities, wasn't just Phoenix. So that means it wasn't planes flying in formation. They couldn't have covered that much distance in that amount of time. They were speeding up and slowing down. They'd speed up in between cities and slow down when they'd be over a city. So it was some kind of parade. They were meant to be seen, and it was more than one of them. It wasn't just one craft. It was several of them. And they were triangles or just a little light, a little ball of light.
It was the aliens' annual "Let's fuck with the Earthlings" parade.
Yeah.
I hope they have that. That would be so funny. They're like periodically, let's just go down there and fuck with them. Come on, it would be so funny. That would be so funny. Because that's what I would do if I was an alien.
I don't think it's a ship. Okay? I don't think they're ships. People say, well, these are spaceships. I don't think so. I think it's more kind of like the monolith out of 2001. They didn't have... I could imagine what was happening in there, and they didn't have the vocabulary even up until recently. But now I can explain what I think it is. It's a craft that could travel in between. It's interstellar craft. It has the souls of millions of beings in it, basically on a hard drive, and they're living in a metaverse. Because why would you want to be biological? You know what I mean? Now you have to carry life support. I don't think it has any of that. I think it's just engines, you know, badass fucking, and I think a lot of it might be in another dimension, you know. So if you can build a machine where some of it's in another dimension, then that means you don't need fuel. And it's got some kind of not a digital computer, but probably crossed in digital and fucking quantum computation going on in there. That way they feel like they're real. You can store a soul in it. And they're living in a heaven-like multiverse, or metaverse. So they're in their own world. So they don't need to carry anything with them. They can be in any world they want. They can all communicate with each other. So it's kind of like heaven. And they can probably talk in between ships. They might have more than one of them, if that's what you want to call it. But I don't think it's biological. And they're just extremely ancient and intelligent, almost kind of godlike. So probably something kind of like the monolith out of that 2001 movie. But there's many of them in there. And I think they just, sometimes, you know, I think in that particular case, I think they just come by and allowing people to see them. And they're just looking. And they're in their little metaverse. If anybody wants to look out, they can look out. Maybe they even feel like they're there. They might feel like they're the ship flying through the air, you know. So I imagine it's probably not just visual, it's tactile, and so it's probably a really good state of being that they're in, you know what I mean? It's not like you've got VR goggles on or you're in a computer. You probably feel like you're in a real three-dimensional heaven-like realm that responds to whatever you want, or you feel like you're flying through space like you're the ship, you know. And you can probably see what other ships are doing and feel like you're over there if you want to too. So it's probably like a big network. And they're probably billions of years old, you know. And they don't have to eat or anything, so there's no metabolism going on. They live forever.
What fun
Something
is that?
super. What's that?
What fun is that?
Some kind of super. It's some kind of. Well, they probably eat in their metaverse, but it's just kind of like an illusion, you know. But it feels real. So they probably, you know, because why would you want to carry a body with you? You want it. You want to be immortal, you know. So that's probably what it is. So if you think you're going to go in there and walk through hallways and go into rooms, it's probably not in that ship.
Get anal probed.
There's nothing there, yeah. How much about there's nothing there? There's probably no atmosphere in it or anything, you know, it's just open to space. Make more sense to me.
I was asking what I would do if I saw one. I'm not really sure, actually. I'd probably be, like, really shocked, I guess. I don't think, like, if it came down right, I'd probably, like, nope right the fuck out of there. Like, yeah, I'm just gonna be over here for a second. Because you don't know. I mean, they could, like, pop out with a ray gun or some shit.
Oh, shit.
What's she doing?
I said, look at this, and she looked at me like, you're talking about me. She knows when I'm talking about her.
Hi, Small.
Lying on her back doing this, fucking zoning out. And then, huh? Talking about me? We're talking about you. Yeah, we're talking about you.
Yeah, whenever you do the voice, she's like, you guys, like, stop.
Yeah, if you start whispering, she knows you're talking about her. They're talking about
Her little ears go.
yeah, they're talking about me.
Bleardo dude said the Phoenix Lights was done for the Crustle.
Crussell saw it.
He
Yeah.
did.
Crussell was the first.
He
dude
was
to
the
see it.
first one to report it.
Yeah,
That's
he was
like
the first one to report it.
That like cracks me up. That fact.
He didn't know what it was. He thought.
A lot of people
He
did
saw
it.
something up ahead, lights. He reported them. He says, "I don't know what those are, but something in the air." And they said, "Okay, Roger," and that was it. And then later on, it
You're
turned
Kurt
out,
Russell.
yeah. Turned out
Yeah, I am
later
Kurt
he
Russell.
was the first dude to report the Phoenix Lights.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part of that story. That it's like he was the first one to see
Yeah,
it.
the Phoenix Lights are in the Crussell sphere.
That's like so awesome. He says for the Crustle on the Jonathan Ross show, he actually gave an account of his sighting.
Yeah,
I was as shocked as the rest of the UK about that.
yeah. That was a real thing. I saw interviews.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that was, but a lot of people saw that.
Yeah. The what do you call it? I got links to the original Art Bell reports coming in. Like Art Bell was, I think he was on air when it was coming. He says they're seeing something over there now, and then in a couple weeks later, they had witnesses saying what they saw, and that went on for several months. You can find it in the Art Bell archives, but just there's not a lot of detail, but just. But the governor saw it and everything. Fife Simon did, but they couldn't do anything, and they tried to report it to the federal government, and they were like, we can't do anything about it.
Yeah. What do you want us to do?
Yeah, we can't do anything about it.
That's what I mean. That's
we
why
don't know
I
what it
don't
is.
think I would report it, to be
Yeah.
honest. I mean, unless I thought that it was like dangerous, like unless I thought that it was something that needed to be reported, like that somebody could do something about. But other than that, like, why would you report it? I don't know.
And there was supposed to be a federal response from there was an Air Force airfield there, and they evidently sent up some jets, but then they wouldn't talk afterwards about anything. There's no telling what it was. Well, it was extraterrestrial, but I don't know why. It was people that saw it said that whatever it was going slowly over populated areas to be seen. It wasn't hiding. It was fucking several miles wingtip to
Like I said,
wingtip.
it was the Let's Fuck with the
Yeah.
Earthlings parade.
Yeah.
Like they do. The only thing I've ever seen anomalous, and I think I've told this story before, that I don't necessarily think it was a UFO, but I was driving, this was when I lived in Daytona still, so this was probably like, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago. And I used to work the night shift, so I used to work 5 p.m. till 2 a.m. And I was driving back to work from my lunch break, because I only lived a couple of miles away. And I saw in the sky, it was probably 7:30, 8 p.m., something like that. And I saw something in the sky that looked like a big fireball. And that's initially what I thought it was. First thing I thought it was a plane exploded. That's the first thing I thought. And then, like, when it was coming close, I thought to myself, oh shit, that's a dinosaur killer. That was the second thing I thought. Because I had just read, like, not too long before, I had just read that book. Who the fuck wrote that? That astronomer wrote it. It's called Death from the Skies. And it was kind of like all the shit that could fall on the earth and, like, kill us. You know what I mean? Like gamma rays and stuff like that. And so I had just read that, like, a month before, literally. And then, like, so I'm looking up in the sky going, well, there it is. Because if that is a fucking asteroid, then that is by far big enough to, like, wipe out. And if it's that close, like I said, that's the dinosaur killer. We're in trouble. So I get back to work and I was like, what the fuck, did you guys see that? And they didn't know what I was talking about. And then I went online and, like, tried to see if anybody else had reported it, but I didn't see anybody else reporting it. So I don't really know.
It's a meteor.
That's kind of what I thought. I
Yeah.
thought it was an asteroid, but like I said, it was big. It was so big that it scared me, and I said, oh my God, like, we're going the way of the dinosaurs. I
It was the
literally thought
perspective.
that.
It was the
Maybe.
it was the perspective. It was probably coming right at you.
It probably was. I mean,
Yeah.
the first thing I thought was a plane had exploded.
Yeah.
Like a plane blew up in the air. That was the first thing I thought. But then after that, because I was thinking about that, Phil Plait, that's that guy's name.
Yeah.
That astronomer that wrote that book. I was like, so I had just read that book, so I was like, oh shit. That's the asteroid right there. Like, we're gonna go.
Was it as big as the moon?
Well, that depends, because the moon looks like a different size, like, depending on your
Well, when
perspective.
you're holding it out. You know, about the moon is about
Yeah,
the size of
I
a
guess
dime.
so. I guess so.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
You can think that the moon is pretty big, but it's not. I think it's about the size of a dime. if you're holding
It was
up.
about that big, maybe a little bit bigger, but it
Yeah.
definitely looked like a fireball. That's
Yeah.
what it looked like.
Probably just got down kind of close. You didn't hear it though.
No, I didn't hear anything.
It's
I
just-
mean, it was like in the sky. I was driving like on the road,
Yeah.
and it was like up there, like in the sky. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And it was like, and it was big enough that it scared me. I said, if that's an asteroid, we're fucked. So you know. He says, spoke one time to Travis Walton. Looked dude in the eyes. He said, I don't know what it was, but I was taken aboard. He believed the energy blast received was a reason. Fix him up, drop him off. Yeah, we did a show about Travis Walton like a long time ago too. I'm not really sure like what happened there. I don't think that he was taken on an alien ship, but I think that he believes he was taken on an alien ship. Those are two completely different things, though. Fire in the Sky is a good movie, though.
Yeah. No, those guys passed lie detector tests.
They did.
But some people have come forward and says, yeah, but depending on what the lie detector test is and who's given the test, you know what I mean?
Well, there's a reason they're not admissible
Yeah.
in court. Really, like, the only thing they use them for is eliminating people,
Yeah.
usually, and I don't even think they should do that. Because they're pretty easy to get around. I don't know if I'd say easy, but it's, you know, it's not that hard to get around them. You know
Also,
what I'm
if the
saying?
guy's given the test, if he's sympathetic to the case, then he can
Then
can
he
tell-
might read it
he
in
can
a
tell-
particular
yeah,
way.
he can
Sure.
put his own spin on it.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. All right. Are you ready to wrap it up?
Yeah.
You have anything else you would like to say about the Lonnie Zamora case?
No, that's it.
Zach says, I don't think I've ever seen a decent alien abduction horror movie. Yeah, they're not. I mean, I don't know if it's just me because I'm not really into aliens as bad guys. I mean, there's exceptions, of course, like Alien and stuff like that. But I don't know. I kind of feel like there's not what
Remember Whitley Strieber's movie? With
Communion.
Communion.
I was actually
With
in
fucking
that interview I did the
Walker.
other day.
Christopher Walken in it.
She asked me
How
about
dare
that
you.
because she was asking me about.
How dare you? They were
That
going
was
up
the
into his
best part.
booty.
I don't think I've ever
They
laughed so
put
hard.
something up in.
They did. They
put
did
something
anal.
up-
I think that's where the whole anal
Yeah.
probe joke
Put
came
something up in
from.
Christopher Walken's booty, and he looks at the alien and he goes, "How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you?"
He was very offended that they had
Yeah.
put some shit up his booty. Well, and the thing about and it was the funniest thing about it too was that it was like one of those wall-mounted vacuums. Like it came out
Yeah.
the wall.
Yeah.
I'm like, they have the anal prober thing just like right
Yeah.
there in the. How convenient.
That way
That's
they
very.
can just suck up in somebody's ass.
It's just whatever.
At a
You just
moment's
walk
notice.
by and it's like, shoop. Woo, gonna hoover you out.
Yeah.
Oh my god, so funny. Like I said, if you haven't seen Communion, I read the book a long time ago. And I remember thinking, he really believes this? All right.
Yeah.
But the movie is batshit insane. It's like, it's a weird movie. But I think like that's the best scene is like, for real, like Christopher Walken gets anal probed. And he gets... and just his reaction to it is just like, it's fucking priceless. I just can't even. I can't imagine the sum total of decisions that came together, like that made that movie turn out the way it did. It's really something. Jeffy Hart said, damn, just tuned in. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, we've been on for a while. We've been on for almost 2.5 hours. Zach said, by the way, I still think you guys should do a cursed film production show. Yeah, I put it in the poll for next week, but we'll see if anybody votes for that. I did put that topic in the poll for next week. I think I did. I'm pretty sure I did. Because usually, I'm usually like a week ahead on the polls, you know what I mean? Because the polls are go up on Friday morning. So if you're a patron, then the poll will go up on Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can vote on whatever the topic for the next one is. Yeah, so that's what. Yeah, that's where we were talking about Communion. I don't know, man. I'm a big skeptic of. I'm not necessarily a skeptic of like aliens. Like I think there's probably got to be aliens out there somewhere because it's a big fucking universe, you know. But them having come here, that's another thing. Yeah, there are a couple of credible reports of like UFOs or like something that's probably, you know, alien ships or like whatever. Okay. But people that actually claim that aliens like took them into their ships and like stuck stuff up their butts or like put, you know, chips under their skin or something like that, or had babies with them and shit like that, I think those people are just crazy people. I don't think there's Because, like I said, if there was aliens, why the fuck would they do that?
They have no need for that.
They would have no need to do
If they're
that.
interstellar, man, their genetic science is fucking through the roof. They just need a single cell out of you, and a little bit of DNA, and
Like I said, if they wanted your DNA, all they have
Yeah.
to do is like get a tissue out of your garbage can. They don't
Yeah.
need to like fucking stick stuff up your butt or nothing like that.
Yeah.
Shit, man. They don't even need like a swab out of the inside of your cheek like they do on the DNA test.
Yeah.
James Knapp said Travis Walton was episode 86 for anyone wondering. Gosh, was it that long ago?
Yeah.
And I think we did a movie review on Fire in the Sky too, didn't we? And I think we maybe
Yeah.
talked about the Travis Walton case
It's
on
a good
that as
movie.
well. The movie's good. Like
Yeah.
I said, it's irregardless of whether the case is real or not, it's actually still like a really good movie. But honestly, yeah, now that you mention it, there's not really a lot of really good alien abduction movies. Well, because like I said, to me, I can't get past...
Yeah.
I can't get past like I can't suspend my disbelief because it just
he's-
seems like so...
He's full of shit, though. There is a really good alien abduction movie. Close Encounters of the Third Kind is an alien abduction movie.
Yeah, but that's not scary
No.
because they're friendly. We're talking. He said horror movie.
Oh, horror movie, yeah.
Yeah, Close Encounters isn't a horror movie.
Close Encounters is one of the best UFO. I think it is the best UFO movie.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I love Close Encounters,
Yeah.
but it's not a horror movie.
No.
They're friendly aliens. He's like, yeah, I'll go
Well, you
with
don't
awesome.
know though because there's a lot of suspense. The first time you see it, you think maybe it is something sinister.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't you remember?
yeah, I do.
When you were a kid, you got kind of scared of this thing. It took that kid. It
That's
gave
true.
the fucking planes back. There were all kinds of weird shit had happened, and these mysterious groups appeared, and people were fucking being knocked out. Remember that? And they had fucking dead animals laying everywhere, and they said there was a gas attack. That fucking, what was it, nerve agent? Or fucking, what was it that... They had to have a cover story to get everybody out of the area.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't remember that part, do you?
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm just saying that in the aggregate, that it's not a horror movie.
No.
Is what I'm saying.
No, but when I was a kid, it was kind of still scary.
Yeah, the first part of it was
Yeah.
kind of scary.
Actually, the second part, too. When it was coming down and the aliens came out.
To be honest,
I
there's
wasn't
really...
quite sure
I'm
if it
trying
was
to
gonna
think...
go
Like,
bad.
there's a lot of horror movies that are based around aliens, like alien attacks and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But there's not a lot of them that are specifically alien abduction movies.
Yeah,
Isn't that interesting?
yeah.
That's something I hadn't really thought of before. And the fact that I can't really think of any other ones other than Fire in the Sky, and that's based on a true story. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
I can't
Whatever.
talk anymore. I just can't talk anymore about it. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up, I guess, because we've been going for 2.5 hours, and
Yeah.
we're done with the case. So, so the next show is going to be Friday, and that'll be the Sidetrack show. So that should be fun. Might be another pregame. We might go to Mannequins after.
Yeah.
Not really sure. But yeah, you all right?
Yeah.
Okay. You seem like...
We've been on for 2.5 hours.
I know, but
I'm
it's
fucking
like
hungry.
you're just kind of... Oh, okay.
Okay.
What
Wait
you
for you to wrap the show up.
what you gonna make?
Already made it. We got that Thai food.
Oh,
sitting
that's
down
right.
there.
Yeah. I want some more of that.
Yeah.
That stuff was good. Dark Skies was all right, I think. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that one was okay. Okay, so there's more than one. All right, so we'll be back Friday night for the Sidetrack show. Thank you everybody for dropping by. Thanks for super chats, and we'll see you guys again on Friday night. Good night.